Zlurpcast!
Burning your balls if it's ice? I don't know. Mike, is it still burning if it's cold?
No, it's freezing. I mean,
All right, as long as
it hurts like a mofo, though.
It feels the same.
we got that in the recording, though, right? That's it?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think the man of science just called you an idiot.
In the not so... Oh, sorry. I got excited. In the not so grim near future, we have another universe. This one is from Mantic Games. We're talking Dreadball. This takes place in Mantic's sci-fi universe. Let me introduce the players before we get into it. Valdric to my left. Biran to my up.
Kitty corner.
Oh, okay.
Other way.
Other
way.
And Extreme's the other one.
It's our bit.
I don't want to be the butt of this joke anymore. Before we get into everything, so because we did episodes about Blood Bowl, so we're going to talk about a sports game versus other sports games, and Blitz Bowl. So we have that. We've done episodes about 40K, so we talked about sci-fi universes. So where does Mantic's stuff fit into all that? Is the intention to keep things, and this isn't a shot by any means, but I know on the fantasy side and the sci-fi side, do they want to keep things fairly vague and not go too in-depth to give them room for other stuff, or is it just they don't want to pour resources into that? What do you guys think?
I think they'll answer that question, but to do so, it would require another Kickstarter.
It might. I mean, there isn't novels, there isn't like, an army codex.
There are short stories of which they paid $0 for.
Yeah, you're right. So I just think that they probably, my guess is, and for people watching that aren't familiar with Mantic, so I think jump in whenever if you agree with my assessment here. Mantic got its start making fantasy figures to be used as alternates to Warhammer Fantasy.
Yep.
Yes.
You want to build a giant undead army, have a look at our zombies. And they were cool. And they're good-looking models. Over time, they said we should make our own game because then it's like, we can market it both as replacement and also, hello.
Guest starring.
Do we all get service or no?
Yeah. She'll be right there.
Okay. Is that a burger? Email me one.
Meatballs.
Oh, nice. So making these other models, they said, well, let's just make rules. Now, it was smart, and Mike will probably know this. Kings of War 1, still written by Alessio Cavatore, former GW designer and a main guy of Warhammer 7th edition.
Yeah, 7th and Mordheim.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he did Mordheim.
So
too.
a lot of cred.
Yeah.
To go. It wasn't just let's print off rules. Because on the sci-fi side, around the same time, they said we're going to make a game called Warpath. This is years ago. That was just kind of like here, there's just some rules. It wasn't anything. Kings of War, they said, well, let's get somebody in there that knows their stuff. And this is before Games Workshop deleted the Warhammer Fantasy universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they had inside knowledge or what, because cut to a couple years later, Age of Sigmar comes out, Warhammer Fantasy is dead, and all of a sudden Kings of War becomes the new hotness. So Mantic was onto something there. At the same time, on the sci-fi side, they didn't really expand on Warpath right away, but they said, let's do a Dreadball game, which is going to be sci-fi Blood Bowl to them. Let's do a Dead Zone. So we'll talk about that in a time. So Mantic started to create an identity, I guess is my point. They went from alternate models in a fantasy universe to then, I don't think anybody really used the Warpath models for 40K. It was all like you used fantasy, So alternate models for fantasy. Now, almost in a way, realizing, shit, we're onto something. Let's try to grab the audiences from a bunch of GW games and give them an alternative. Would you say that was the next step for them?
Yeah, I think Dreadball was their major Kickstarter after Kings of War.
Yeah. first
Because that
Dreadball.
came before Dead Zone and Mars Attacks.
So then, as time went on, they're obviously now trying to expand things a bit more, but that's kind of like the short history of Mantic. You're going to hear on this episode that we've all had history with them. I technically worked for them for a while. I mean, we've all, had our time with them. And I think that I'm glad we're covering Dreadball first. We probably will cover almost all their other games at some point, but I'm glad we're talking about Dreadball.
We're going to cover Loka?
Yeah, that's another Alessio game.
I said probably all their other games. I did not say all their other games. Loka is right after Mars Attacks.
Yes.
Before Tarsag.
Before Tarsag. So Dreadball, let's do our usual kind of our history with the game and then our pros and cons like we do. For me, Dreadball, it's a relatively short history because than the rest of the guys, because I remember Xtreme had these Zlurpy boards. It was a forum, still there, but not really used much. But that was like the place to go to talk about Blood Bowl and other stuff. We're doing Zlurpcast as a podcast about Blood Bowl. I see a Kickstarter post about Dreadball. I'm like, no. As the guy, I'm not interested because I play Blood Bowl, and this looks like a ripoff. Completely disregarded it. Before we get into the rest of that, which of you guys did the Dreadball 1 Kickstarter? So, Mike, as the Xtreme 2, did you? What
Yes.
was the reason you said this might look like Blood Bowl, but I want to try something new?
Initially, I wasn't going to give it a chance, just like you, because I didn't want I already had Blood Bowl in my life. And then someone told me that it plays more like basketball or hockey than football.
Or
And I was
Whirly
like,
Ball.
all right. Or what?
Whirly Ball. It's more like Whirly Ball.
Whirly Ball without go-karts.
Mhm.
It's just ball.
So then I gave it a chance. I was like, I don't really believe you, but I'm going to give it a chance. I kind of looked into it a little bit. I was like, all right. The first Kickstarter, I think just got the base game. I didn't get anything extra. And then
So
the
humans
other
and orcs,
Kickstarters after that, I went all in on.
base game
Yeah.
was corporation, humans, and orcs.
Yep.
Okay. And then that
That was before Kickstarter just kind of made us jaded against a lot of Kickstarters.
Well,
Yeah.
It was early on. This is probably 2013, maybe.
Wow,
Kickstarter still existed, but people. I mean, it's every year that Kickstarter has been in existence, more and more people are familiar with it. So, from our group and our circle of friends, it was relatively new to us. I did a couple before that. I think a team from Impact and a few other little ones, but I think for doing a all-in kind of pledge, that was probably a lot of people's first. Instead of doing, here's $20, I think it's cool. This is the first time for a lot of us that said, all right, here's $150. Give me everything. I hope it's cool. And it was a plunge for a lot of people. Mike, is that what you did? Did you go all in?
Yeah.
So you got the base game, corporation, humans, and orcs, and Forge Fathers, which are dwarves, and Veerman?
Veerman, yeah.
Okay. And
I must have done that too.
What?
I must have done that too, because I got the Forge Fathers at the same time as the base game.
And
So
Veerman?
I believe so, yeah. So
Yeah.
I probably did
Star
whatever
players
that
and
pledge
everything too?
was. Yeah.
Okay. So, and it might have been cheap. It might have been $100. It might have been not like the huge all in, but once you got that, because as time went on with Zlurpcast, we started talking about Dreadball. A lot of people didn't like it because they were, Blood Bowl. I came in for Blood Bowl, and we were talking about Dreadball. When was it? Was it like before a Blood Bowl tournament, like a Friday night? Is that when either Xtreme or Mike showed me and others how to play, and we all kind of get in? Was that how that worked?
It was at my house that you and I played a demo game
Yeah.
with somebody else was running the game. I forget who it was, but that was the time that somebody walked up to you because you just weren't getting it.
That's right. I do remember that. We were at your house on like a Friday night. Now I remember. You and I were playing, and somebody who goes to Zlurpee Bowl, I think it was the guy that wears a crown on his head, said, "You're just not getting it to me because I was asking too many questions about the skill checks." Because that is a different mechanic than we ever had. Jake Thornton designed Dreadball. He has Warhammer and 40K cred and writer, rule designer, who later on did Dungeon Saga and Dead Zone too. And yeah, I remember I was getting a little irritated because the guy that was showing us was a little snarky about it. And you kind of assured me though afterwards, like, it's a fun game, check it out. And I think I said, you know what? Yeah, I think it can be fun. So the one thing I'll say is, and this is kind of like a little tangent, but when you're at like a gathering, maybe like before a tournament or a con, and there's a bunch of people around, at least not for everybody, but for me, I'm not good at learning brand new games when I know we're going to do a live Zlurpcast recording. I've had a bunch of drinks. We're going to goof around. Like, I'm not good at, all right, I'm going to really learn rules now. I don't like it. And I'm glad I got to try it there, but it was a bad move to try to learn a new game there, because I remember walking away a little irritated already, where I wanted to learn it later on for real. But I think that happens a lot. You go to a gathering of people and you say, "Hey, I got this game. Want to check it out?" "Sure, let's try it out." And some people are fine with getting it, and some would rather I'd rather just play a game I don't have to think a lot.
I have that trouble at conventions doing demos sometimes too, because there's so much going on around me, and I already have my afternoon and evening planned. I have a lot going on, and then I'm sitting down like, okay, I'm going to see if I like this game or not.
I'm
And
the same
sometimes
way.
That's hard for me.
I have a hard time with it. I don't like. I don't know what it is. It's almost like the same thing when I read a book. I don't want it to be noisy. Like a mic you could read on the train and people talking. I think sometimes learning a new game. And so that was, I don't know, a little off-putting with the game, but I remember giving it a try afterwards, digging the Forge Fathers, painting them up, coming up with like standards of like, all right, put a green mark for strikers, red, that kind of thing. Coming up with like league rules that were in the book, but then expanding it, and then tournament rules, and then expanding it. Then I moved on to like humans, and then Judwan, and then eventually convicts. And then we got all into it. We started running tournaments and going to tournaments. And then that's when we started covering it on Zlurpcast. So it went from a blow-off game, a rip-off, blow-off game, the Blood Bowl, to the basis of our podcast, much to a lot of our listeners' chagrin at the time that didn't like that. And like, oh, they have a Dreadball podcast now. It's like, well, if we're going to Dreadball tournaments and running Dreadball tournaments, but we're not running Blood Bowl tournaments at the time, what do you want us to do? Like, fake enthusiasm for one game to not talk about another, or say, fuck it, let's give it a try. So that was Xtreme. And you're the only one really fit to answer this one. Would you say that was sort of the beginning of the end of the original Zlurpcast style?
I guess maybe like the precursor to it, because we didn't intend to split away from Blood Bowl yet, but we were kind of naturally going that way.
Yeah, I agree. It was it started off like it was like almost, I think the Dreadball episodes were the end of season 1, and we rebooted to cover all kinds of other games. But I'm extremely glad it happened, because it was very freeing. Talking about in other games we covered, giving other things a chance, moving out of a bubble you're used to. Dreadball was a lot of fun. It's a fun game. You'll hear that in this episode. So I thought it was great that we took that jump into leagues and tournaments and the competitive side and started talking about it. In my opinion, without going as far as we did in a Dreadball, I don't even know if we'd be here right now, because Biran's intro to us was Dreadball related. Us talking about other games stemmed from Dreadball being again discussed. So that's kind of where we're at now. I haven't played in a while now, which we'll talk about. Mike has got more experience now, and so does Biran. But we went all in. We went hard in Dreadball for a good 2 to 3 years. And
Fast and not balls deep.
Yeah, totally. We were all in. Couldn't even. I lost a ring in there. I lost a watch in there. Great. I did not lose a Dreadball ball in there, because that is heavy.
And got a magnet on it, so it was easy.
Yeah, I
to
should
get
have put
out.
a magnet. Who wants to talk about their kind of intro and history to Dreadball?
I'll go.
So I just, did the Kickstarter, and when it arrived, because the Kickstarter was wildly successful, and I think that was part of the problem is because remember they went all 6 seasons, and seasons 4, 5,
the first
and 6.
Kickstarter was all 3, or all 6 in the first Kickstarter.
Yeah, because it came out later, didn't it?
It was stretch goals, right?
Yeah, they were stretch goals.
Yeah.
It was 2 waves of shipments, but yeah.
So that was a case of like what happens when things go too well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. Because
everything in that second wave is the problem.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, I agree.
So first wave comes out, and obviously, going by the stuff we got, for most of I said even the bulk of our Dreadball history, maybe not so much Mike now because you ran some things later on, but the bulk of us as a group playing Dreadball was really centered around those first 3 seasons, I believe, because you had like the 4 we talked about. Season 2 was robots, Zor, Void Sirens,
Judd won.
Okay, still some balance.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah,
Still pretty solid. New rules because
Judd won were a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, they kind of did a FAQ on them where they reduced some, didn't they?
Yeah.
They nipped that one in the bud fairly quickly, I think.
They had like a rule, I think, with Feints. Then they changed how good it was, I think.
Yeah.
It was like juking your opponent. But to be fair, and I played Judd 1 too, but I'm not. They also can't block anyone because they're all strikers. Right? They weren't.
Yeah.
They didn't do blocks. So it's like they had to have something. Season 3 then comes out. I should say then. It was kind of all relatively together. Season 3 comes out. And you have Nameless, which created the biggest, split.
Power creep,
yeah. You had Sphere? No.
They were a much later team.
What were I don't remember offhand.
Yeah, Nameless, Z's, Asterians, Teratons.
Oh, okay. Asterians, like elves almost, essentially.
Yeah, they're foul.
Yeah, right. They're like dirty trick elves. Z's, little guys. Teratons, basically teleporting turtles, and then Nameless. So let's focus on that for a while because that was the cut between more stuff later on. We ran leagues, we ran tournaments, and dare I say, we all had a great time with it. Fair?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Biran, what's your take on things? Because you jumped into our crew through Dreadball. How'd that work out?
Yeah, I picked up Dreadball at Adepticon. So it was after the Kickstarter. And I bought a couple teams or whatever, and that's when I think either Todd or Jose introduced me to you guys, and we started playing soon after that Adepticon at Gaming Goat.
Yeah. And
Todd played Nameless, of course, because Todd's a power gamer, win at all costs, jerk.
Yeah.
And my first game was Orcs against Nameless, and I got crushed. Mainly because I didn't know it. That was my first introduction back into tabletop gaming, period. Yeah, and after a while, like a long hiatus.
We went full on into that. I mean, I was grabbing some props here. I mean, in a way, an Xtreme, you could probably jump in on this one. Would you say that Dreadball, in that initial first wave, both, actual first wave of models, but also figuratively our kind of first wave into it, would you say that was like filling almost a void of some lost love for Blood Bowl? Because remember the stuff we did? We made our own like energy drink, which, by the way, when we get to the season 2 rulebook, you're going to see how Mantic stole this concept, and we never got a dime for that. That's cool. And then we made this billboard in Dead Zone and go by Dreadball Games. QR code, there's a commercial there. I don't think that works anymore. It might be on Xtreme server. I don't know. So maybe it does. But we went all in. We all painted teams. We had rules. We expanded on rules. We added shit. We went to tournaments. We ran tournaments. We had custom coin, like tokens, turn markers, tokens for activations, shirts. We played competitively, and this is an important subject. And we're going to probably have a types of game episode at some point, because I want to talk about sports games, and that more in depth, but why people play sports games a certain way with a certain level of competitiveness, but then everything else they go, fuck those guys. I don't play competitive and all this other stuff. But for some reason, for a lot of us, sports games bring that out. The good that comes from it is we made a lot of friends. We had a lot of fun events. It was great. I mean, would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, and after one game, I almost gave it up because I'm like, this game sucks. I'm not getting it. But then halfway through our season, our league, I switched to Void Sirens. And I ended up finishing the league 500. And I'm like, all right, this is fun.
Yeah.
And I care about those models so deeply, I keep them in this. These are painted, by the way. These are not unpainted models.
Well, I was thinking maybe you start off unpainted, and that's how you get like a camouflage kind of thing going.
Yeah.
Like the speckled kind of look.
That's how much I care. And we'll get into that in the cons thing, but I'll explain why. It's okay to paint Dreadball models and do this for me.
Would you say they are the first shake and bake team?
Yeah.
You put a nice coating on there.
And so basically Dreadball is how I met everyone in this call.
Yeah. I think your score will reflect that because like I said with Blood Bowl, just because I don't want to play it now, you can't erase history. I mean, it's there. So I think that Dreadball is going to have some of those same correlations there with it. Do you want to, before we get into the pros and cons, oh, sorry, Xtreme.
Do I get to talk about my history?
Sure, you jumped in earlier when Mike was talking, so I figured you were.
No, but then you directly asked me a question, and then you went on, and then you asked to somebody else. I never got an answer.
I don't like when mom and dad fight, Mike. How about you?
I don't either.
You know what?
You asked if Dreadball was filling a void for Blood Bowl.
Oh, I did say that. Yeah.
You did.
Thank you.
Yes, remember that a long time ago?
Yeah.
So I don't think it was necessarily filling a void, but it had that freshness to it that Blood Bowl didn't have anymore because maybe it had gotten stale or we'd gotten used to it or comfortable.
Or it was a well-written game unlike Blood Bowl.
I would say quite the opposite, but
Yeah, I would too.
The opposite?
yes.
The rules, not the lore, the rules.
Yeah.
The first rule book for Dreadball, there was all kinds of arguments in that.
I never cracked the rule book, so I wouldn't know. I made Mike show me how to play.
I mean, we can. We'll save that a little bit. Let's bank that over there because that's going to talk about the rules and pros and cons. But so Xtreme, you not filling a void. Fair point. But it was new. It was fresh.
Yep.
What made? Oh, good.
So most of my playing, I got into that first Kickstarter and I got more models than I would ever want. Everything, and we'll probably talk about that later. But almost all my playing was in tournaments. I did play some one-off games. I introduced it to some other people. I played locally here and there, but I never got the league experience that you guys had. I played in a lot of tournaments, and what I discovered is that I'm not very good at this game. But I still had fun and enjoyed it during that time.
And you focused on a fun team, the Z's, which to some, are they like goblins and halflings in Blood Bowl where you better go just to have fun?
Well, I got 2 Z's after trying multiple other teams. Like I finished in last place with Forge Fathers, then I finished in last place with Martians, then last place with whatever the other dwarves are. What are the new dwarves?
Rockers.
And then I got to Z's and finished in last place with them. So it was a progress to get to Z's.
I totally forgot Martians were in it.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that?
Because
Mars.
No, I know, but like
they already had the models.
Yeah, but it's not like that's its own universe.
I still say it would have been a cool addition to the game if they didn't have guns.
Yeah, it's like Skaven with a knife.
Yeah.
Ooh. Did you lose any helmets, Xtreme?
I had extra helmets on hand somehow, so I still have some helmets stashed away.
I assembled one of them and then like boop, popped right off, and I thought I had it glued like with a little bit, and I'm like, this sucks. But yeah, that's a weird kind of thing there. So season 1 of Dreadball, the first edition of it, that's what got all of us into the game, and we started playing it. We started getting new. We loved it. As time went on, new teams started coming out. So you have like season 4. I think Sphere were in season 4.
Yeah.
And what teams were in what's not a huge deal. It's more of a and Mike could probably answer this one more than others. Like Dreadball Xtreme comes out too, playing sort of a different style of it. They're playing in a prison, and they're just, at that almost like, I guess like Street Ball and Blood Bowl trying to do a thing there, but everything just went downhill there. That game wasn't that good. It wasn't that fun of a game. You had robots, like a new robot team where you can build this unbeatable team. You had mutants, you can build unbeatable teams.
Yep.
And it just was like, fuck, like you had a good thing and you ruined it. But going to the initial thing, the Kickstarter was so successful that it was almost like, it was a blessing and a curse at the same time, because now you had to create all these rules for all these other teams, and it didn't happen organically, and it imploded, right?
Yeah,
I would say that happened before Xtreme, though. I think it happened with the season that the Nameless came out.
Three.
That second wave.
It went like this: season 1, season 2, season 3,
Right.
season 4.
When was Xtreme? Wasn't Xtreme season 5?
Yeah.
But
it was
I merged those three together. If that's wrong, I put 4, 5, and 6 in the same group.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, but it started with season 3. Season 1 and 2 were where it should have been.
And I hate that that's how, anytime I'm talking about Dreadball with other people that haven't played it, that's the conditional statement I have to make, like, well, at its core, it's a really good game, and it was for a while, and then it's not anymore.
We'll get into how second edition kind of addressed it.
Oh yeah. Second edition really balanced a lot.
I think we can move on to rules. Let's talk about it, because obviously we covered our history with it and where we had our so some of us blew it off, and then you hit our peak, and then it kind of was like this, and that's where we're at now. We are on the other side of that curve there. This is the Dreadball second edition rulebook. Came out, I think, 2 years ago, maybe 3, and it still smells like a rulebook to me, because I've never really cracked it fully open. The pages are still like this, because I've never played second edition.
Does that have all the teams in it, Mike?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're all in there, and
Except the Martians.
there was new cards and there was a new rule book. Everything else you use your existing stuff for. This is the kind of game, though, that when you talk about how things break down, it was a brand new type of system. You're rolling usually 3d6 to start with, and then you add modifiers for number of dice, not what you need to make a success, and that will indicate if your thing is successful, whether it was picking up the ball, throwing the ball, all those different things. You guys, as far as a rule mechanic, that was new to a lot of us. Was that anything new to, or something similar to what you played in the past, or no?
Well, it's similar to dice pool role-playing games like Vampire and Shadowrun.
Yeah, Shadowrun, it reminds me of where
game goes.
raw successes.
Yeah.
You're
And
trying
doubles and triples and all that. Yeah, that was reasonably new for a miniature game. Yeah.
Yeah, it was new to me. That's, and it took me a little bit, then the exploding sixes and all that. I think when it came to the rules, there was a lot I liked about it. There were, if you were to compare it to Blood Bowl, which everyone will always do anyway, no matter what.
Yeah.
You don't reset after points are scored. It keeps moving. If you are losing 7-0, the game is over. Slaughter rule. It can make an excruciating game go quick. Because there's 5 actions per side, and I think it's 2 per player, right? Up to 2.
Yeah.
It really felt like, to a point, we're never going to have simultaneous play. You're never going to have simultaneous in a board game like you do in a video game. You'll never have it. But this was a whole lot closer to that than Blood Bowl, where I'm waiting for my turn and I'm powering up my 6s, because it's like, man, I've already went and got snacks, a drink, took a piss. This guy's still going to town on my guys. Dreadball was like, they were like boom, 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 back and forth. Did you guys feel that was the biggest strength to the game, was it was fast moving like a basketball game would be?
I like the dice pool where you're rolling multiple dice. I like opposed checks, keeps the other player engaged. And I like the puzzle element where I have to do X and I have this many turns to do it. How can I do that?
Yeah.
I prefer comparing it to hockey. It just has that flow of a hockey game to me, but it is very fast. And your comment about, if you're losing, you lose quickly. I think I might have the fastest loss in Dreadball history at Adepticon one year, where I got to play one turn.
Nice.
I think the game was over in about 6 minutes.
I think, if you tried to lose that quickly, it would be hard.
So he got a 3 or a 4 pointer right off the bat, then got the ball back immediately again and did it again.
Yep.
Yeah, it was the teleporting monks.
Yeah.
The douches.
And I was playing, I think, Forge Fathers at that time, and he teleported in, and I was like, all right, well, good game, I guess. Now we get a long break.
Would you chalk that one up to the teleporting team doesn't belong in the game?
I mean, at that time, I was pretty bitter, so yeah.
I think the new robots and the mutant team, what the fuck? All these other teams had a strength and a weakness, or humans in most games, nothing, you just kind of whatever. And then it's how about you just build a super team? The fuck? That would be, again, video game reference. We all pick from the NFL teams, but I'm going to pick from the All Madden team. That doesn't make any sense. There's no reason at all to come up with all-star teams that essentially ruin the game. And while that one wasn't one of those, it was to me in that group of, once you went past the initial 8, and I'll even tell you, well, the initial 8 to start with, there's some little things within those, but once you get past those 8, it is kind of oh, wait a minute. Why do they get to do that? My guys just move and pick up the ball like normal people. They all have a thing.
I think there were stages of the problem. So the first stage didn't have any problems at all. It was a great game. There were some tweaks that needed to happen. Then the second stage, they decided every team has to have something cool and unique. Well, no, it doesn't. But that's what they kept forcing in, and that's where you started having problems with those teams. And then the third stage is well, do whatever you want, guys. Here you go.
Well, that was my problem with in the tournaments, where you would get X amount of MC to basically fix the core problems with your team. This team's great, it's got all the skills, but it doesn't have any cards. Well, I could fix that by just buying cards for the team. No, that's why that team's balanced.
So
Sphere were a good team, but they had no cards, and that's huge, because in first edition, if you didn't have any cards, you couldn't draw any cards.
So that, to me, all comes from Blood Bowl background.
Yeah.
Because the Blood Bowl way of doing things, both leagues and tournaments, were using things to even out the weaknesses.
Yeah.
And so that comes from that. Whether it's good or bad is a discussion. We can have it here, but that it's kind of its own thing. I don't think adding cards, you're right. So one team doesn't have any cards with it. And that's because, well, they're so good at all this other stuff. We're going to take
these guys move 6 more than anyone else, but they don't have any cards. That means they can't draw cards.
Yeah.
Cards are huge.
So
that balances it.
But what Nameless did was, Nameless had no weakness to start with, and then you gave them the stuff to spend.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like in Blood Bowl, where when people complain about dwarves or orcs or whatever, I'm just throwing, they complain about certain teams, and they already start here. So why do they get more?
Mm-hmm.
Dreadball had the same thing. If you were to play all the teams out of the box, no MCs in tournaments, and leagues were just fuck it. You and I play this week, Mike. Me and you, Brian, play next week, and we just keep scoring. Would have been better, but Nameless still would have kicked everyone's ass.
Yeah, that's because we're talking Team 1, Year 1, Season 1, Season 2. All those teams are fine. I think you could pick and choose from some of the later books, but exclude others and just do that.
So, let's talk about that for a second. And this goes into the rules thing, and Mike probably knows the rules best if you want to interject when I say something wrong. But when Season 2 teams came out, there were 3 of the 4 were brand new. They were fresh teams in Season 2. But the Void Sirens were humans, female humans. They gave them run interference for free.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Jacks.
For the Jacks, yep.
For the Jacks. And then the male human Jacks didn't have that. You can do a card for run interference. Now, because we're going to talk about rules for a while. I think
the male team had a card or a coaching die, whereas the Void Sirens did. That was
something like that.
Built-in
so
ability.
I hate the run interference rule. And I also played Void Sirens too in some tournaments. I actually mixed the male and female together because why not? Why not?
Go ahead.
Actually, I think they even said in the season 2 rule book you can do that. So because we played a Games Plus tournament and one of my opponents complained, "You're not using the right models." Like, do you really want me to show you in the rule book, dude? Like,
Humans are humans.
Yeah. But run interference is an interruption move that a lot of games have as a mechanic. And let me tell you what happens, I don't know, half the time that someone does run interference. Okay, it's on my turn, or, you got run interference, it's my turn. Okay, I'm going to go boom, boom, boom. Wait, stop right there. I'm going to run interference. I'm like, well, I wasn't actually going there. I was going here. I just was, yeah, but you said, now we're arguing. Like the chess thing of don't take your finger off. Because run interference was 1 hex and you hit somebody. So once you tell somebody I'm going to run interference, they're like, well, I wasn't going to move right next to you. Why would I do that? Why would I move right next to you? And there were arguments.
Yep.
And this is the same shit that used to happen in old 40K with Overwatch.
Yeah.
And other games that have interruption things. Always, well, I wasn't really going to do it. Like, but you did. Yeah, but I was still in the middle of moving. Like, when do you actually say the thing? And we would tell people, even in Blood Bowl, move your guys like this. And what do people still do? They go, ba, 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 broop, and they put them there. And now if you did that in Dreadball, that fucks up run interference. Because now I went boop, boop, boop. Like, why didn't, like, yeah, but you put your finger there. Well, yeah, I was just mapping things out, though. I wasn't actually going to go there. To me, I hate that kind of rule in the game. There's not a lot of things I disliked about the rules of Dreadball, but run interference, did you guys have
it breaks the flow. It breaks the flow.
Breaks the flow. It caused problems, or is that just me?
It's because they had to make the Void Sirens different, and that's what they chose to do, and it was stupid.
Could have done some. They could have gave them faster speed. Say they're women, they're smaller, whatever. Made them, or even just brought down
or have them have more strikers than jacks.
Right. I think they even did. I think they might have. I think they actually had
more
guard.
jacks. Yeah.
They had 1 guard.
1 guard instead of 2. And they could have done something else. That seemed kind of shitty, but it wasn't their fault, or it wasn't the fault of that team, because run interference was also a card you draw.
Yeah.
Right.
Scumbag card, yeah.
I just don't like it, put it that way. Outside of that, though, I was flipping through, again, I haven't played 2nd edition, but I've had the rule book since it came out, and there wasn't really any other core rules I didn't like. I liked most everything about the game, the different skill tests for doing different things. They have fouls in here, which is really cool, because in Blood Bowl, a foul is hitting someone on the ground. In this, it's a weird kind of thing. You can cheat in the game, in the rules of the game, but you can't cheat in the rules of the game. What's the, like, coaches can cheat. No, players can cheat. Coaches can't cheat. You know what I mean? Like, they have things like too many people on the field. Like, I could put extra people on the field, sneaking, right? And it's up to you to figure that out. I think I like that. In a weird way, though, I kind of don't, but I think I like that because that allows that. It reminds me of old Blood Bowl with moving your turn marker. Like, there's some things in the game that are like, do you like meta play like that, or do you not like it?
I do like the too many players on the field, because I have neglected to call that myself, and it's not illegal until you call it. Or Aziz can do it automatic.
It's also, sometimes if all your players are upfield, you can bring them in, to play defense, and then you might lose another player. But you could bring a guy from the bench in, knowing that even if you get called, chances are the player that came in will be the one sent off.
It's a random guy goes off?
Yes, by the number of the player.
So yeah, you got a 1 in. Is it 6 on the field?
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you roll on how many are out there, because what if I have 3 extra on the field? Do I roll a D10? Like, how'd that work? How do you determine who was?
Is it that, or you flip the cards?
Oh,
number.
You're right. Cards were. I forgot about that.
They had like 3 things they could do.
Randomizing numbers, a thing, and they were like
checks.
3 things in one. Fan checks, yeah. But I mean, what was the other one about standing like in the spot where people come out?
Yeah, if you block them from coming off the bench.
Yeah.
But is that another one where someone has to call it?
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, they have to call it. But that one kind of got bullshit because of the giant rule. Because giants take up 3 hex. Giants were stupid.
They didn't belong in the
Never
game.
introduced
Period.
giants.
No, there no reason to be in there.
But because of giants, they increased the
Threat range.
the range of where you could call that foul. So sometimes it made it so all you had to do was go to in front of your hex and stay there. And then the minute someone comes and tries to, block or steal you, you can call that foul before they get there. It was bullshit. So
As a Z player, I love cheating within the rules of the game.
yes.
But one thing I saw as a flaw in the game that they try to correct in a way that I didn't really like. They didn't like the way people were playing the game, so they instituted the stalling foul. And I don't like the fact that you designed a game, but you don't like the way people are playing it, so now you're going to create a rule and say, well, when you're playing that way, you're cheating.
What was that again? I forgot.
When you would take the ball and cage up around it.
Cage
So
up,
someone's
yeah.
gonna get
When
to
you
it.
would do it, play it like Blood Bowl,
So
the cage.
not-
Yeah.
not moving downfield. I forgot what was the legalities of it. Like,
If you got like on the sideline, you can block it in so the other team can never get to the ball.
It takes like all 5 of your guys to do
So,
that.
if
Yeah.
you surround your guy with all either sideline in those 4 or
Yeah.
anywhere else in those 6 or 5.
Yeah.
I don't know. But basically, if you have a non-path to the ball carrier, it's stalling.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot about that one. And that was really a later on rule that wasn't in the first rule book.
No, it was added much later. I think.
Oh,
season.
yeah, because they had I forgot. They came out with the rules, but it was a rule book / season 1. Forgot about that. Then they had season 2. I totally forgot how they did the rule, which was really dumb in my opinion, to have new rule books for team rules, but also new rules.
Yep.
So I used to bring the C4 bag for Battle Foam to my games. It got to a point where I actually couldn't fit all the books in the bag anymore.
Yep.
So then I used to say, all right, three is essential because they wrapped up a lot of things. Can I get rid of 1 for now? And I would actually have to think about, I was ready to put all 6 books in my bag, and I forgot about that. They started to add things besides the new teams as time went on. So stalling was added. I kind of liked the foul thing. It was a little weird, but and I think I want to definitely talk about this more in sports games general. But there are certain things in sports games that I've noticed that create dick players, like of us, not players, but coaches. Biran, coaches?
Generals. I call them all generals.
I'm pretty sure it says coaches in here.
Again, I didn't read the rule book. I get Mike to show me how to play games.
Not even like a control F, look for the word coach to see if you
No.
get mad. But I mean, there's some things in this game, just like Blood Bowl, that are creating dick behavior and justifying it while you're trying to win the game. Both the game, we're trying to win the game, and then like the game. And that doesn't happen in non-sports games as much.
Well, and most of the dick behavior is outside the game. Like stalling is a thing in this game where you surround your guy, but stalling is another thing.
Mhm.
Slow
Sure.
play. That happens in every game, and it's always a dick move.
Well, let's talk about that Adepticon. We're playing a tournament. I'm playing someone who's definitely slow playing me. His
Yep.
turns are going way too slow. And I give Mike the signal like, come on, man, like, let's wrap it up. Mike's like, time. And then like it was like after that turn. So then he called time on my turn. Whatever it was, like my request to call time backfired.
I remember that. I felt horrible too.
Yeah. And then I remember after that, the guy's like, you want, he goes, post-game talk. Let me show you. I go, hey, I'm good. And he's like, no, let me, if you don't mind, I go, I do mind. I know what I did. And at a certain point, I didn't care about this game anymore. And I just want it to be over. That's why I didn't go for the ball. I'm going to go get my fucking stale chicken fingers now, sir.
Was it me?
It was.
No, it was not you.
It was Todd Warren. Ever heard of him? And anyway, that game that was shitty. But there are some things that you do in that game. I mean, Xtreme losing in 2 turns, or 1.5 turns. That's not. I mean, I wasn't trying to say losing by slaughter's fun. I just mean it's like a less painful death.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
That game, I mean, for all of Blood Bowl's faults, you ain't losing in a turn and a half. Can't happen. You can always come back after 2 turns. Even if someone scores somehow in one turn, and then then gets a blitz and scores again, and they're up 2-0, 2 turns in, it still isn't over.
I'll probably walk away from the table though.
You could, but it still isn't over. But Dreadball, it's like it's nice to lose early when the alternative is a slow, painful death. But you're probably pissed about that, Xtreme.
Well, I mean, more just because I was caught off guard because I think I went into that tournament playing those early season teams and didn't have a lot of experience playing the other ones, and then got slapped in the face with them.
Did you feel unprepared? You didn't know the rules of that team? Unprepared, or? I
had a vague idea, but I didn't realize how bad the full potential of what they could do once they were in play. But if that game had continued on, if there wasn't a slaughter rule, it may have been like 40-0. Because I mean, I wasn't going to get better as that game went on. So if it's going to end quickly, that's fine. I'd rather that.
And that's a perfect story to the whole, the I guess the thought of all those post-season 2 teams. They all had things. They all had rules in the season book to tell you what the new rules were, because the basic rules weren't good enough anymore. So now they all had to do a thing. They teleported. What were the guys that were clear? You couldn't like hit them or something?
You could go intangible and just run through players.
Sounds pretty damn good.
It was an action to switch back and forth. Was that the deal?
What was that?
Was it an action to switch back and forth from intangible or tangible?
Well, you would start tangible. You were always tangible. You could be hit when you weren't moving, but you could move through other players. That was the Adlerans.
Yep.
Those were the clear, like blue.
Yeah.
Those were, I don't feel like painting my army guys.
Are those called translucent?
Yeah, the translucent blue, but there's 2 of them. There's the Crystallans and the Adlerans.
Oh, yeah. The Crystallans look like chewed up gum.
Yeah, they were rocks. They were crystal.
Joke's on you. Almost all their models look like chewed up gum.
True or false? Mike, how many have you put in your mouth? That's not true or false. How many? The correct answer is none. Wrong question. Hey, I found this in the rule book, by the way. Look at this. Dread Max energy drink. Wow. Wow.
Your Honor, clearly they are ripping off our copyright.
Wow. The other one, what do they call this? Dog ear?
Dog ear, yeah.
This was some fluff. Not a ton of fluff. There's probably more in Dreadball than anything else. But there was a mention of, and I wanted to get Biran's take on the guy who created Dreadball, Jesus Ortiz. Or Jesus.
I believe if it's Ortiz, it's going to be Jesus Ortiz.
It's the future. And as dare I say, the Messiah of Blood Bowl, could it be Jesus?
Yeah.
And then they called it Digby. There's a line at the end. Hopefully you can read this. The last line says basically, as long as I'm in charge, Dreadball will be pure.
Yes. Well, if you remember, JP, probably the last tournament you ran was at Dragstar Games in Batavia, Illinois.
Yeah.
I insisted on playing pure. I played my sphere with no MCs.
You played pure sphere?
Pure sphere. And I ended up coming in second, losing to Jeff, the Canadian, the only one who really loves Dreadball in the world.
He drove 9 hours to play, so you better just take the take the team on that one. It's weird. So
that's when I became bitter, when I was like, fuck this game, I'm not playing with MCs.
Would you say that part of the fluff in this universe, this is a like future, but not far future. This is kind of like a idiocracy kind of future, right? So you're inundated with ads and everyone's dumbed down, everyone's stupid, and you see corporations.
It's the most accurate future is what we're saying.
Yeah, and dare I say we're in it right now.
I was going to say.
And corporations own everything. I liked it. Did you like it, Xtreme?
Well, I liked it a lot because it was so much different than like the grim, dark futures that most of the sci-fi games out were. But then I also really liked it when Dead Zone came out. And you saw that there was more to this universe. There was different layers. There was this bright, flashy side where there's corporations everywhere. Then there's kind of the dark side that they want to kind of push away to.
Yeah, fair. You wouldn't hear, no teams would come from an area declared a dead zone. I'm glad we got a game in that. We'll cover that, but I mean, Dreadball was the rose-colored glasses future that, sure, keep pumping me full of whatever to keep things moving and keep money. So I thought it was cool. We all had fun with it. We all had, for the most part, like a team that, you know, was like a team, like a real football or basketball or hockey team where you had the nickname and then the sponsor instead of a city. And we embraced that. I thought it was kind of cool. I remember the website we had all the standings on. I had Blaine, the master, the Mantic poster boy, have like a words of wisdom, and he would give his tips or trash.
It was good-hearted fun. All the lore, the game itself, it was good-hearted fun.
Yeah, I like it. It wasn't you know, at the beginning of this episode, we talked about Mantic's history, and because some people question the way they deal with fluff and building a universe. And in the fantasy side, they have Mantica, which, you know, it could have had a better name than your company name with the A, but then they're starting to expand it. But in the sci-fi side, you know, not counting whatever Warpath is trying to be, but if you look at, like you said, Xtreme, Dreadball and Dead Zone, what a cool way to look at the same universe and two completely different extremes of that universe. And it was great. I thought it was awesome. And both games were really fun. Both games were made by Jake Thorne, who's a good rules designer. Like we were really happy as a gaming group playing Dreadball and Dead Zone, right? That was one of the peaks of our history as a gaming group, and it was a fun time.
Before we get too far away from the rules, can we turn things over to Mike to talk about second edition and some of the things it cleaned up?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Again, we've addressed this a little bit, but there was, like you said, every new team had a gimmick, so to speak. And I remember there was like kind of open play testing on some of the forums, and they would say, okay, here's a rule set for this. Play test this for 3 days and get back to us. And I'm like, I can't do this, you know? I'm not going to play myself because that doesn't test anything. And I don't have a good gaming group to do this. So they did 3-5 days of play testing and then went with some stuff. And
I remember in prepping for this episode, because I have a lot of old emails, and I searched Dreadball in my Gmail, and I actually found an email from me to you. I think it was when season 6 before it came out, and it was me giving you like the secret copy of the rules, like that I somehow got. And it was like, what do you got? It's like, I gotta add a Lorena team in here. And you're like, oh yeah. Like it was like this, because you were supposed to use it for playtesting, and you're totally right. It was like a very small group of people got to provide input on the rules because we were one of the biggest leagues and tournament circuits, whatever you want to call it, around, but we rarely got to truly play test because that's just not the nature of, we don't live in a fucking dorm room, you know, in the same, you know, together. Like we all have things.
What would it pay to do this?
Yeah, I was getting to that. So at Adepticon, Ronnie, Mantic CEO, looking for playtesters. Biran like stood up almost like a volunteer as tribute, and he was like, "What does it pay?" And we all were like, "Yeah!" And he's like, "Oh, nothing. I don't know." And that was like
"Be gone, red coat."
That was the moment that this guy up here, you know, he basically crawled so we could walk. So, Mike, back to you on that. But
okay, so what they did was second edition rebalanced all the teams. So they, you know, the nameless, they're pretty balanced now.
What does rebalance mean? Changing their stats or their skills?
Yeah, most of the time it was changing stats. Okay, like for example, for the nameless, all they really had to do was tone down the sticky. And make the jacks a skill of 5+. Boom. You know, they're good. Don't get me wrong, but they're not the OP.
Sticky's problem was it was cumulative. Was that the issue?
Yeah. Well, that, and there was something in the rules. It's a whole rules as written, rules as intended. It's clearly a typo, but as written, you could get -3 to skill checks. And
you could put someone on the ground and they could not get back up.
Yes, and that was, you know, And you could sit in, especially if you got alert, you could sit in, or 360 vision, you could sit like right in the middle and make your own douche wall. And
Yeah, single figure douche wall.
But anyway, so they rebalanced a lot of the teams. They
Xtreme,
added another stat.
Xtreme's trying to jump in here. What are you saying?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the stat line in the game changed as well too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like the
They added
basic
a fourth stat, which which there was more hype about that than the actual effect, because that new stat adds to one skill only or one ability, and that's the
That was
dash.
speed, right?
What? It was
Speed?
speed. And that only affects one skill roll, which is the go for it, the dash.
Oh, so nothing else in the game uses speed?
Nope.
Wow. So by the time second edition was being discussed, I was kind of disinterested anyway. All I remember from those discussions was speed stat will fix everything.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the talk of.
It doesn't even need to be there. They could have thrown it in the ability.
Kind of doesn't.
Wow. I had no idea.
It doesn't break anything.
No, but Mike said it was overhyped, and that's all I remember is, we're doing all this stuff, like a new stat. Oh, it's so cool. Like, obviously the other shit was way more important in the game. The other, team readjusting.
Yeah. They allowed Jax to be able to do, you don't have to move, because before Jax where you could move one hex and throw or one hex and block, and now you can do all your movement and throw and all your movement and block. You just don't get any bonuses.
Oh, so Jax can do what guards could do. You just don't get the plus one dice.
And same with strikers. They're true multifaceted threats like they're supposed to be. They're not quite as good, but they can do everything.
So strikers can throw blocks now?
No.
Oh,
but Jax could throw blocks, and Jax could score and move a full distance and score.
Yeah.
They can do that because the two extremes were guard can't, and it's been like 5 years, whatever. Guards can not pick up the ball and throw,
right?
But they can hit, and then strikers could do all the other stuff, but they couldn't hit.
Yeah.
So they said Jax, instead of just doing a really shitty version of both, now they do a decent version of both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Jax are useful.
Yes.
Yeah. They should have been. The fluff is Jax or jack of all trades. Like, that should be in my opinion, and using the Blood Bowl reference, to me, a jack is a blitzer. And blitzers in Blood Bowl are the best players, but like overall, because they're good at everything, not specialized in one thing.
The most athletic players.
Yep.
Most
well-rounded.
They are the running back of a team. They are the middle linebacker on defense. They are the
point guard in basketball.
Point guard, or even small forward in basketball. That's good at like forward stuff and guard stuff.
But they usually sometimes will not have as good a key stat in one of those things, and they don't get the bonus die. Yeah. So it is a significant difference. If you want to score, you want to use a striker. But you're not so boned where it's like, well, unless I'm right by a strike house.
And what happened in our leagues? When we built our teams, we couldn't wait for Jax to die and not replace them, and then replace them with strikers and guards. And that ain't the way it's supposed to be.
Well, several rules in second edition really helped, but that rule made Z's a lot more fun to play.
Yeah.
These are all Jax?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what can you even do before? You were so outside of playing up to the monkey business or whatever thing, like you couldn't really do normal play, right?
Yeah. Right. But with the second edition rules, they feel like a real legitimate team, and it's fun to I don't know. It became so much more fun to play Z's in second edition.
And I'm not sure, but it seemed this way in our game. The card for Jack any action is more common than the other ones. Any player, any action ones.
In the new deck?
Yeah.
So they gave you more Jack cards to make them more useful?
Or it seemed that way. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the spread of the deck. I just know I got Jack any action or Jack do X,
I'm
Y,
disappointed Mike hasn't analyzed the two decks side by side. Laid them all out and like card for card. I'm very disappointed in you, Mike.
Also, the rage quit rule in Dreadball first season was if the ball bounces to you and you don't catch it, it was a turnover. And remember, Jax would catch on 0 dice.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that was the first.
That's still kind of there, but you can discard a card from your hand and not have to make the test, so it's not a turnover. So
discard a card to let it bounce again.
Yes. Yes. So, because I mean, again, that's a whole thing. That was
I forgot about that. That you and I.
That was a rage
that we had where that happened, and we were both just pissed because it's like, come on. I mean, I didn't do anything.
It's not my fault.
I'm a bystander. I can't get the ball. Let it be. And it's like it just hit my square or my head.
The one thing I wish they would have done with the deck, get rid of ball explodes.
So ball shatters is in the middle of the game, ball shatters. Now, was it a thing to wait until actions are completed to play a card?
There was a lot of discussion about the exact wording of that card because the way it was interpreted in first edition was the way I wanted to be was you're getting ready to throw. You know, you make your move, you declare the action, you move the guy, and then the ball shatters, but you had to declare it at the beginning of the action.
Or after that action.
You had to let them complete their action. Strike, you couldn't play ball shatters, you know, when they moved into position, but before they threw. You couldn't do that.
So if Biran doesn't like it as is, you would really hate it, Biran, if it was as Mike's saying.
Yeah.
We just, at any point in time.
I love that card.
Well,
I would like it. I would tolerate it more if there were like 5 of them in the deck.
Yeah, I think
or there's just one, right?
I wanted half
the deck. It's so powerful, you get that one card.
I want half the deck.
Can win a game.
Ball shatters half of the time. I want it everywhere. No, but if you say any time, then it's the whole when does it happen?
It's the interference rule, yeah.
Well, I know, but I said ball shatters. Yeah, but I said I'm throwing. Like we said at the same time. If you wait until actions are done, that's the way to interrupt actions is.
Well, can you imagine? All right, I'm going in for a strike, and I'm going to use 3 coaching dice. Ball shatters. There go your coaching dice.
Yeah, so true. Yeah,
it's the ultimate scumbag card.
I almost think that ball shatters, like there should be maybe a deck of weird shit that you could play with or not play with, and maybe ball shatters should be in there along with extra
ball and weird stuff.
Rubber ball, bouncing, whatever. I mean, all these different,
No more bouncing.
Well, yeah, no bounce, but or maybe it's like double weight and doesn't bounce. It's like thunk, it drops. But like that way, it's hey, you guys just want to have a fun kind of game because that card is a little much. It's fun to play when it's not you.
Yeah. But, I love it when I have it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it really fits.
And then there's the bluff thing of like.
I love bluffing.
Yeah, you hold the card up and you're just like,
what are you doing?
Bluffing's fun because it's just all player and player. But when there's things in the game that really fuck someone up, it's probably not good to have that in the core rules. Yeah. Now, what could be you're playing a league. Maybe I pay 100 MCs for a ball that shatters next game, and we use that, and you don't know about it. Then maybe there's something, but to just be a random thing, it's like I don't know.
I could take game. Not anymore. It's not. I'm gonna win.
Yeah, I'm not so against it where I think it's the worst thing ever. It's just more of a. I don't think it really helps. I don't think it really helps the fun of the game. Mike, what other besides the overall? And then you don't need to get into what teams got versus what they have. But
the coaches and the cheerleaders changed too.
Okay, how so?
Cheerleaders can do things like distract, which takes away dice. So again, it's one of those things that it's kind of a defensive play where you're getting ready to make that 4-die strike for 3 points, and then you can play the cheerleader. And
is there like a show your tits card or something?
Exactly, and you lose dice from that, which is it's risky, but it's something that
after the coach says I'm going to do it and I'm going to use coaching dice, then do you not negate, but you add in your own?
No, you can get rid of their dice.
Oh, it is really negated. So
can you reduce their dice to 0?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the cheerleaders are sitting there, so it's a possibility.
Right, but I don't like when you always give them 1 dice.
Mike, are you saying that all cheerleaders must be represented by an appropriately painted Mantic Games miniature?
By a miniature, yes.
I agree with Brian there, where there should always be an option.
Who's Brian?
There might I didn't read the rules, and it's been a while since I've actually used them, but there might always be you get a die or
To a
something.
minimum of 1 or something.
I mean, especially with exploding sixes, if it's reduced to 1 die, you could still do, in theory,
Double.
anything.
Well, or you reduce the base dice, and then you can add coaching dice later. So, because that's how it was before. Even if it's minus, the maximum minus was -2, but then you can add coaching dice to it. If it was.
Was there talk about when they went from 1 to 2 in the rules, going to an 8-sided dice to give more separation in the teams?
That was my hope.
Yeah.
Because Dead Zone had it, so now
Yeah.
you still have that correlation, same kind of style.
I think it would have been good.
Me too.
But-
It gives you another layer of
Differentiate the teams without making
Well, I mean-
bullshit special rules.
So,
Yeah.
you got this useless speed stat. You got, 4s across the board. Like, why does it have to be 4s? Why can't it be 4, 4, 4, 5, 4, 4, 3? And then it's still kind of like this. It gives you that little bit of room to separate the teams without creating made-up rules.
Well, with Dead Zone, it's a grid. So you've got 4 orthogonals and 4 diagonals. So that's 8.
That's not why it was 8, was it? That's for scatter rules only. That has nothing to do with
But
stats.
it goes into the overall mechanic of it. Whereas in Dreadball, it's a D6 because it's a hex.
Oh, come on.
You want justification. That was
You
some of the
D8s and
justification right
D6s. There.
You know what? I'm going to design a nonagon game. And
Octagon.
fuckers are going to get, is that 9 or 19? Whatever. I think that's a funny correlation that I never thought about, but
I agree.
the
Yeah.
use
but-
of that is only for scattering. That's the only use in Dreadball and Dead Zone is scatter rules.
I agree.
It is funny that it did, and I hope that wasn't the reason.
that
that
was
sounds fucking
was
terrible.
bandied about a lot.
That
on the
sounds
board.
fucking terrible to decide the rules of your game based on how many sides the things had.
Yeah.
That's
And anytime it scattered and hit the wall, you had to call Mike over to explain where it bounced.
there's the mic rule because
Well,
Not that hard,
Judge.
folks.
It hit a wall.
For some reason they would bounce this way, and it's like unless it was the one behind the goal, because then
Because
I
it
come
bounced
straight
right
back.
back.
It's like, you know what, Mike, have a seat. I got this one because it's straight back. But every other one was like, bloop, 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 bloop.
I was always so happy when it hit that one right behind the goal. I was like,
Oh,
yes,
it's
I know.
a good feeling. It's a really good feeling.
When I would play Todd in Dreadball and we'd get that card that double the bounce, we're like, no.
Like this card, no, you misread it. It said no bounce. You misread it. So, Mike, with the teams and the evening out of those teams, you've run a couple tournaments since then.
Yeah.
Any kind of issue with the mutants and what were the other robots? Mechanite?
Mechanized, yeah. One of the true, I thought was good things about Dreadball was every team was stock team. You got, at least first edition, you got, 2 jacks, 3 strikers, 3 guards, that's your team. So you didn't have to do roster check, except for the mutants and the mechanites. Okay. Now with second edition, you can kind of build your team. There is a base level team.
Is it mixed
Yeah,
or no?
What?
Mixed races?
No. But if you don't want to have jacks, you don't have to have jacks.
Wow.
But most of the tournaments and the leagues that I was part of, we said you start with the stock team.
I wonder, because in Warhammer tournaments for years, they used to give composition bonuses.
Yeah.
I wonder if there was if you go with the stock team, you get an extra 5 tournament points or something.
I don't know. But it was, in theory, you can build your team how you want. Now,
there's something to be said for, like Biran mentioned earlier, and even in Blood Bowl, and Blitz Bowl doesn't have the issue because Blitz Bowl is stock. Playing right out of the box. You take the good and the bad. You take the weaknesses that go with the strength of your team.
You take them both, and there you have.
You have, yes, Natalie Tootie and Blair.
And Joe,
Joe.
She was the first trans character.
Big surprise, big Joe fan here. Just saying.
Did you write Joe / who was the one on You Can't Do That on Television? Moose.
Oh,
I wrote Joe Moose / Vic.
No, but I did write. I think I told you. I did write a letter to Nickelodeon asking to be on You Can't Do That on TV. There's a part. This is a true fucking story. I was like 10 or 11, And there's a part in the letter I wrote that says, I know we'll have to move to Ottawa, Canada. Let me work on my parents about that. Let me take care of that. Like,
I'm better than Alistair, and you fucking know it.
Right? Yeah, I'm better. I'm better than Alistair. I may not be as good as Moose or Lisa or Alanis. Yeah, but I remember saying, I know we'll have to move, but let me take care of that. Like,
I'll work that angle.
You hire me, and I'll work on that.
I'll take that action item.
Right. Anyway, so the good and the bad of those teams. Playing stock, there's something to be said for that in this game, because we all of us agreed Blitzball is a really damn fun game.
Mm-hmm.
Playing stock is part of that. Xtreme, would you agree that too much flexibility is not always good in all these sports games?
Not always. Yeah, I think there's definitely room for both types of games, and I think I prefer Dreadball as like a stock out of the box type game.
Yeah.
What did we do in tournaments? Did we let people? It was
stock.
It was stock rosters, but you used to give money to buy skills,
cards and dice, and
skill ups. Yeah.
Skill ups. Yeah.
Looking back now, cards and dice might have been okay, but I don't know. Well, that's still going with the replacing a weakness.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we when we started doing tournaments, we were like, well, we should give them money because that's what we did in Blood Bowl, and that was a mistake. Because when we started going back to stock team only, it was so much better. Outside
of those two custom teams.
Yeah.
I thought I saw it. Isn't there like a cyborg team that's mixed race though? You can do whatever you want.
That's Renton's Rejects.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's not allowed in tournaments. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I was flipping through because then there was some new. So I guess we sort of got to this point of when they came out with the new edition, there was a third Kickstarter. So the first one was the base one, but with 6 seasons because they went too far. Then Dreadball Xtreme came out. I don't even need to talk about the mechanics of the game, but it was like, 2 teams were inside. And that was sort of also season 5.
But then they ended up throwing every team in there, whether you pledged for it or not.
Got everything, yeah.
Remember, they just went, the hell with it. It all goes in the box.
I'm like, I bought a shark guy. Everybody gets the shark guy, but I got 2 of them. What the fuck do I need 2 shark big guys for?
I need less than 1 shark guy.
Right. So new Kickstarter happens. You've got a new human team. No, they're robots, right?
Yeah, Neobots.
That's right, Neobots. So you have robots, you have mechanites, built like robots that were just like changing position. Then you had mechanites, which were build your own like super team. Then you had the new robots, which were essentially like a normal team though.
Yeah, they have a special rule where if you play a card on a player, you get a free move with another player.
Okay. For the most part, they're
good, but they're not over OP. Yeah,
they were almost like a human team for that purpose. They had more other teams that came out. There was the Indige team, which were like probably super agile, jumpy kind of guys, right? And the
Tadusians? No,
those were the earlier ones. Here, let me see.
Yeah, I forgot what they're called. I painted them.
The cyborg team. So there's Draconis All-Stars were the Neobots.
Yeah.
Kind of like a normal team though. Like
they look like the robot from the NFL bumpers.
Yeah, it looks like the Fox robot.
Yeah.
The Indige team, the models actually look pretty cool. I don't know if they looked like that in real life, but
they paint up decently.
You had to chew up a little bit, then they'd look like that.
Those guys.
Yeah, the fat guys.
The fat monks, yeah.
Fat monks. Matsuden.
Oh, Matsuden, that's it, yeah.
Badass Masa. No, the New Eden Revenants is the cyborg team. It's not Ronnie's team.
Okay.
So this is not allowed?
No, Ronnie's Rejects are not allowed. They're in the back.
Then there was the Cryptics Mutant team. We have talked about that already. Mechanites.
I will say one of the things I hate about the new rule book is.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out. It's all the extra guys from Dreadball Xtreme. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So all the miscellaneous like monsters and shit. That's Renton's Rejects. That's not allowed.
I will say one of the things I hate about the second edition is they use the official team name for all the teams and not the Vermin team.
Doesn't tell you the race.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, what were the Neobots called again?
So I'm playing in your tournament, Mike. Here's my roster. What team did you bring? The
Oceanics.
Yeah, the Ocean, right? The Matsudons. It's like what?
Yeah. It's not by race; it's by team name, and it's a little annoying.
Yeah, I can see that.
It forces you to have a knowledge of an advanced knowledge of something for no reason.
Right. Because that would never happen in other games. You wouldn't.
Yeah.
What do you play? It's like
I play
David. I play Space Marine.
I play the Dark Side Cowboys, and you're like, okay.
Do they get special rules for being the Dark Side Cowboys? Go ahead.
There were two things when second edition came out that I was really hoping would happen that didn't happen. One of them we talked about was switching over to D8s. I think that would have been much better for the game.
I agree.
You could have differentiated amongst the races much better.
The
other one, sorry, what?
I was saying that was this. People were talking about it, but I don't know how it got just dismissed one day.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think it would be much better for the game. But the other one was, I wish they would have just eliminated some of the races. So you instead of like their way of their way
easy. This isn't Germany.
Well, like their way of fixing the Forge Fathers was to bring out the Brockers. Well, how about when we fix that for real in second edition, how about we just say you can use either of these models as Forge Fathers?
So what you're saying is you wanted more of a final solution.
Yeah,
I remember. I'm not going to take your bait.
Yeah, no, don't. It's best not to feed the trolls. We know this.
Yeah.
I remember playing a tournament with my Forge Fathers, and then someone else was using them, and they were like, "Well, I'm using Brocker rules." We're like, "Why don't you? You shouldn't use them." I go, "Because I'm playing Forge Fathers. That's why. Because I want them to be the fucking Forge. Because I'm gonna, and I will make sure. And I didn't do that bad all the time with them either. But it's like, no, I want to play this team. I like the fact that the guards play like this and the strikers play like this. I know the strikers were weak. I will do my best to work around it.
And, and I don't buy the counter argument for not wanting to eliminate people's teams or stuff, because you're still providing rules for them to use those same models with. And you did eliminate a team and the Martians, they just disappeared. So you saw that it was possible for you to do it. You should have just cleaned up, reduced the number of teams, been done.
Martians disappeared?
Yeah, they didn't have the IP for Mars.
It's like, the license disappeared, so did the Dreadball team.
Yeah,
like that one jerk in America that was playing that team, he's upset now.
I bet you're in a very small group of people that are disappointed that the Martians are gone.
Yeah. I want a big stompy robot.
I mean, they're still
big stompy robots. Can someone ask me regarding the star players why this guy who looks way cooler than this guy is nowhere near as good?
Is he still 2+ on strength, Buzzcut?
Yeah, dude, Buzzcut's ridiculous.
I remember Buzzcut ruined my season.
I remember we're playing a league. We couldn't wait to have a team that was shittier or playing a team that's better than you.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, like
Buzzcut.
Get fucking Buzzcut, man. Like that was all we were shooting for, was how quick we can get Buzzcut on the field or pitch, if you will.
The first league we played in, where I played Sphere, I was doing really well. I had a bye in the playoffs. Then my first game was against Josh X-Wing Aldous Snow fan.
He's watching right now.
And he fucking brought Buzzcut, and half my team was dead for the next game.
Oh my god, he's so good. It was like 2+, grizzled.
All right, I got 97 successes.
I just got mad that when I brought this guy on my team and he was nowhere as good, I'm like, come on, this guy or this guy? Like, he should have been Buzzcut or better based on the look of him, but whatever.
I think the MVP rules was another flaw in the game too, because it was designed for like one very particular kind of league where you can get together and all have a bidding war.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
We never did that, where it's like, all right, here's the MVPs. What do you get a bid on? We never did that. Remember how you had a bid?
We just. You mean like the star players?
Yeah.
Like how was our MVP? I forgot what they were, because they only have. I was confusing it with Blood Bowl. You have an MVP of the game, and we gave that, but it was. Yeah, they want it to be like a draft format, and we never really did that.
Yeah, it was so British.
Yeah.
It's like, we're all going to get together in the pub, and we're all going to spend an hour drinking, bidding on this. It's like, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's nearly impossible to pull off. There's a really nice idea, but realistically, it's never going to happen. Like, come up with rules that are actually going to be used.
We, I think in our league, increased the cost of buzz cut. Like,
but it didn't matter.
Hey, it didn't matter, but at least he wasn't in every game. It was a huge difference. But yeah, like we did that. The MVP thing they want to do. They wanted everyone to play Ultimate. We played it one time and it wasn't.
Oh, it was garbage. That game is garbage.
Yeah, it wasn't fun at all. There's a lot of things in this game. When I say the game, I don't mean the core rules. I mean the whole Dreadball everything. That's a lot of that category of I like the idea of it better than the actual concept. Yeah, right. There's a lot of that. I mean, Dreadball Xtreme, that should have been the coolest shit of everything. That should have been. The game wasn't good. It didn't play right. The crates and pushing people. It was very complicated, and it became a game within a game because they didn't care about scoring as much. But we got Convict Team came out of it, which was great. But it was like I wish that game was so much fun. It's like there were so many things they added to it that on paper sounded like a good idea, but it just didn't pan out, on the surface.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So we kind of covered the rules. Let's kind of go around and talk about our pros and cons of the game. Who wants to start?
Well, one of the pros was in second edition, they balanced things out, which was great. Okay. The huge cons were they generated a ton of buzz when the Kickstarter came out, and then the product did not come out for second edition until a year and 3 months later. And by then, nobody cared.
Yeah.
And then when they released it, they only released the book, not the cards.
That's right.
If you want to jump from first edition to second edition, and they should have realized that they had a small fan base to begin with. If you want to keep your existing first edition players happy, release the book and the cards at the same time, because that's right. What you need for second edition.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I remember finally getting the pledge, and I was kind of like not that interested anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And I think maybe Sarlo's watching. I think I said, take all of it, whatever you think is fair, whatever. And it was like, I just was done. I eventually bought the rule book on my own just to have it. And I got the cards eventually too, but it was like, I think Todd had them at Grognar. But I remember that. I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. I totally forgot that it's a different kind of Kickstarter problem. It's not the problem that the first one had.
Yeah.
That was like models before rules. Let's quickly come up with rules. This was the other problem of the typical giant delays create lack of or loss of interest. I'm glad you brought that. I totally forgot that their third Kickstarter, but the second edition Kickstarter had that, where it was like a year, right?
Oh, it was more than a year, because it ended at the Kickstarter ended at the Saturday of Gen Con, and the shipment didn't come out till it was the Gen Con year later, still wasn't out yet, and then it was like 3-4 months after that. So, and it annoyed me so much that they ended the Kickstarter, and they're like, okay, let's talk about the second edition rules. And it's like, no, you need to have a beta ready when that Kickstarter ends.
Yeah.
It was insane. And it was like, if you guys want to be the big boy company, you can't be doing this.
Yeah, that was very much that's what any of us would do if we created our own sports miniatures game is.
Yeah.
All right, now let's get to work on the rule book. Backers, let's get your support and let's talk about it. It's like, no. Like, you've done like 10 Kickstarters already. Like,
yeah.
You got to be further along than this, or else we're going to lose interest. And I remember that. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that. I totally forgot about that time period, because that time period, we basically were. And I say we, I don't mean you, because you were still doing tournaments, like running them. But
still, I mean,
we were like done. We said we're done with leagues. We're done with tournaments. We were moving on to Age of Sigmar or some other game already when that happened. And it only increased the gap of disinterestedness even more so, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Totally
and even for tournaments, it was like, well, we don't really want to, there were far less tournaments in that year and a half in between because everyone was just waiting for second, so. And
what happened then? Because then you still had tournaments. Was attendance wasn't what it was?
Attendance was the same 6 to 8 people that show up for the 6 to 8 Mantic standards.
Yeah. Do you think
So-
that was really a? I mean, I'm not asking anyone to like shit on any, but it's just like that was like the final nail in the coffin of like we're done. Like we went along with these 6 seasons and Xtreme and all that. Like we're done.
Yeah.
Mine actually was Warpath. Warpath was my I'm done with Mantic as a growing concern.
Well, and we can do that. I mean, yeah, that's fine. It's fair to say that Warpath soured you on Mantic, but I think all of the third Kickstarter soured people on Dreadball.
Oh yeah, for me, definitely.
I think that second edition Kickstarter could have been like a boost of energy for the tournament crowd and stuff if it would have come out quick.
Yes.
I think that big delay just absolutely killed anything you had, but you could have increased your momentum and really pushed this into being a bigger game than it was if it would come out quickly after.
Was
But
there
you
talk
can't,
about?
you can't have your player base in limbo in between editions,
Well-
knowing that it's coming out, not only knowing it's coming, but knowing they've already paid for it. And then you're like, well, show up to a tournament.
They paid for it. They lost interest, and it's like this isn't Games Workshop fan base. This is Mantic fan base. Dude, Games Workshop fan base Mantic. It's like you can't shrink that circle even more. And
Right.
I was part of the problem. Like one, the question of should we even do a Kickstarter? Should he just come out with a new rule book?
Yes.
Yes.
That should have fixed the issue. Two, okay, you want to do models. Why don't we learn from the first 2 and say, let's just come out with a straight up base game, 2 new teams, new rule book, and call it a day. They kept going on and on, right, Mike? Or was it?
No, they only had 4 more teams. The new Kickstarter had 4 teams,
Okay.
4 teams. But part of the reason why they said there was such a delay was the models were made in China and there were shipping issues, embargoes, and all that. But again, like Xtreme said,
Do you believe that for 1
those
second?
4
though?
teams.
Do you believe that story for 1 second? No,
I don't know.
We do.
But-
I think an established miniatures company can't use. I don't know. I think they would have known better. I think the smart move would have been to just completely say no Kickstarter on this. I'm not saying Mantic could never do another Kickstarter, but it should be for a fresh game.
Yeah,
I
not
don't
for
think a new rule book is
Yeah.
worth a Kickstarter. I really don't. You had how many teams? 24?
24 teams.
Yeah.
25 if you count Martians. So but
25,
24 on paper. Like you don't need anything else.
No.
In fact, this is the time to catch up. This is the time to catch up to the overreaching you did 3 years before, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mike, if you want to continue with your
No, that's it. I mean, if it would come out 2nd edition rule book with the new cards, boom.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been great. But again, that year, that 15 months of waiting killed any momentum they had. It made everyone bitter. A lot of people were like, when it came, they're like, whatever.
Yeah.
And
that was me. I'm not soured on Mantic like maybe Biran is, but I was soured on Dreadball. I
Yeah.
bought the rule book separately. I think it was like a store credit thing, like, I'll take one of these. So it wasn't even like I was really buying it. I'm like, fuck, I'll get it. Even though I gave my shit away already, I just wanted to have it. But it's weird to go from such like loyal support with leagues and tournaments to not even caring. Like it's weird to do that. We don't do that with a lot of stuff.
And the fact that if you wanted to play 2nd edition, they forced you to buy the full box.
Wait, the rule book I bought? Oh, you mean for the Kickstarter?
No, for if you didn't do the Kickstarter and you're like, oh, I like Dreadball, I want 2nd edition. When it was finally released retail, the cards were not available. So you had, in order to get the cards, in order to play the game, you needed to buy the new box, which is again is a big slap in the face to your loyal fans.
I have no idea. I think
Because I remember it being.
Did Todd get just cards and rule books separately then?
That was like 6 months later. Because
Oh,
when it was released at either, I think it was Adepticon is when it kind of had the big release. I remember being at the booth and people were like, well, can I get the cards? And they're like, no, the cards aren't available. But you can download them as a PDF. And it's just like, no one's going to do that.
You know what?
I think that was the first year at Adepticon where I felt like negative energy around their booth. Like everyone that walked like started to have negative feelings. I was like, you have got to notice this and know that you're really screwing up what you have right now. And they just didn't seem like they were picking up on it at all.
It's very they have a very like focus on the positive attitude, which isn't like always bad, but to ignore like it was, yeah, we know about all that, but we're talking about Hellboy now. It's like, well, yeah, I know, but like, remember your core.
Yeah.
Like we had.
Remember the thousands of dollars I've given you to play your games. Can they be playable, please? That'd be great.
Yeah, that does kind of suck. Dreadball could have been a true flagship game for Mantic to be their number one or number two kind of game. If teams came out organically, if rules were done without Kickstarter and all these things that didn't involve stringing people along again. Nobody like the whole fool me once, fool me twice, like 3 times for a lot of people.
I think we'll talk about it probably in other podcasts or other episodes too, but I really think Mantic has 3 games that should be huge games in the gaming industry, and it's completely their fault that they're not. Yeah, I think Dreadball, Dead Zone, and Kings of War should be some of the biggest miniature games there are.
Yeah, agreed.
Maybe the biggest non-Games Workshop games in the market.
Those could have all been in the category of games you get into, as Biran said. They could have. I know you may not agree with it, Biran, but you could have made those because Blood Bowl is a game people get into. You'd think, well, you buy a team and you're done. No, these people got 3 of every team now because you got to get the new Grebo one or whatever. Dreadball could have done some shit. It really could have been a big deal. It could have been the number 1 sports board game, miniature game out there. It just, those Kickstarters really, it started with the first one. Too big for its own good. If there was a cap, it would have been good.
Yeah.
There was a cap at like $200,000 or whatever. Just the fact that it goes over $1 million, it's like, whoa, we got to do all this stuff now. It's like,
how about this? Same teams. Now we're going to do hard plastic if this stretch goal is reached.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing. I would have loved some of those teams that I was trying to, and we didn't talk about the miniatures, but it's going to come out in the pros and cons, I'm sure. But carving out that kind of stuff. So yeah. Anyway, Mike, if you want to, I don't know if you still had more on yours, but that's
that's
Biran, Xtreme, who wants to go next?
Go ahead, Brian.
I'll go. Like one of the other things, like general Mantic thing I want to get out there too, like their timing on these games too, and to go along with what I was saying, these 3 games should be big premier games. They had like the perfect timing hitting the market with these games and somehow still messed it up. Like it's unbelievable that you could have good games that come out at the right time and you screw it up. Like Dreadball came out before Blood Bowl was re-released, so there was a hole in the market. Dead Zone came out before Games Workshop started doing Sci-Fi Skirmish again.
Before Necromunda.
And Kings of War came out right after Age of Sigmar started. Like you had perfect timing on these games. Like you almost lucked into all 3 of them too. Like,
it sounded almost too good to be true. Like that. It reminded me of like someone that gets information, like insider trading. Like you get some info that gives you a head start. How did you know? It was like, I don't know. Like it seemed too good to be true to have 3 unique games that all like, I don't want to say one-upped, but got in before the competition, the big competition.
I'm convinced that Ronnie has a monkey's paw. And it granted him his wish of foresight on when to release which games, but the curse was they're all going to get fucked up.
Well, and to add to that, Warpath came out.
What? It did?
Bullshit.
It is not out.
Dude, we know. But, there was talk. Everyone knew 8th edition was going to be very different to 40K. Warpath came out, and it could have done something. Because no one was buying anything for 40K because they're all waiting to see how it's going to change in 8th edition, and that was like a 6-month period.
I was involved in the initial Warpath Alpha before beta rules, and the moment I realized that they weren't choosing a path of where to go to.
Yeah.
Do we want to be
firefight rules versus
skirmish or like giant squads and bases? Let's do both. Like we're done. We're done. Like,
no, yeah.
You played that one game at Games Plus, and I'm like, this is fucking trash.
You can't do that. Dreadball, all the pieces were there. You know,
Yeah.
Xtreme, I think you were, you know, for you, Xtreme, was it, when did you kind of get in the negative side? I know you said when you felt the vibe from them, but what about the vibe from you?
I mean, I started like seeing negative writing on the wall, I guess, when that second wave from the first Kickstarter started coming out. I started seeing those, like the name lists and even the Judd one when they came out, because it was a problem. They fixed it, but when they first released, they were a problem. And as like, if you had just grown naturally with this game, we would be in such a great place and would have such a great game. But you like had to rush because of that Kickstarter release, and just kept pumping more and more teams in there that weren't thoroughly thought through. And I think it just over time it just kept getting more and more negative until I don't know. I think the final nail in the coffin was that second edition Kickstarter. So,
Do you think they felt the need to release so many teams to justify the Kickstarter, or do you think it was because Blood Bowl has so many teams?
No.
I think it was for the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, because
I think they just. I mean, I would have been happy. It's like you already got my pledge, you know, and I don't need more teams just because there's more money coming in.
Again, there's ways to add stretch goals that don't break the game. They chose to go the other path.
what if the game ended after or season 1? Great game, right?
Yeah. Great game.
Yeah.
Or it'd be a board game because it's kind of self-contained.
Yep.
There's not really extra shit. You're not buying new teams. You're not buying. But if you had embraced that for what it was, it was pretty good.
I'd still be
would
cracking
require
up.
an FAQ, but it would be a great game.
Yeah, there would be an FAQ or a new rule book, but cut it off.
Yeah.
Humans, dwarves, orcs, skaven, whatever, Biran. Done. You could. You could say the other races, they're at war. They don't want to play basketball.
They're all in the dead zone.
Right, yeah, they're in the dead zone. But if you could cut it off, I think it'd be kind of cool.
Or do your next Kickstarter 4 new teams that are thoroughly vetted and tested, or 8 new teams thoroughly vetted and tested.
I would love for them to just come out the Kickstarter and be like, this team is thoroughly tested. We're doing a Kickstarter for them.
Yeah, what does it pay? Because you know the rules committee will come afterwards. Xtreme, so you've expressed some of your cons there. What are your big pros of the game?
My pros are the speed and flow of the game. It feels different than any other sports game I've played, and it feels exciting and fun. I really like that. Even though I'm horrible at the game and I lose almost every game I play, I still have fun, and I like the feeling of it. I can get immersed into the game very easily. I can see where, you know, I want to be in that world and see all the big glitz and glamour. The second edition fixed so many issues and is so much better. I really like the second edition rules.
Did you play it?
Yeah. I played a handful of games, mostly against Mark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had hopes of like trying to get something going in second edition with a possible league, but it's just so much effort to get anyone to give this game a chance, especially with model quality, which I'll save for somebody else to talk about. The other thing I like about the game is the background in general. I kind of mentioned that I can get immersed into this background. There's not a whole lot of fluff, but they did enough universe building that I can get into it. And then especially with Dead Zone afterwards, I think they did more. And I really think that's where they dropped the ball with Warpath. And you have this cool universe, and then Warpath just feels very bland. Like, yep, we're in that universe. Like, well, where? Like, where in between the Dreadball planet and
would you say that like a sports game compared to a skirmish war game, you almost don't have to have as much fluff? Blood Bowl is never like a ton of fluff, but we get it. We know what it is. It's this fantasy thing that's a parody. It's not books upon books written, though.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of fluff. I do think you have to create a universe, which they did for Dreadball. There's like a universe building thing, but I don't think
every game needs a universe. I think every game needs a universe to play in.
Yeah,
you have to have
Dreadball is a universe I actually would like to be in and experience. It looks fun.
Lucky for you, Biran, we are right now.
So it actually reminds me of the Galactic Football League books, which I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
Scott Sigler wrote them, but it feels like the same universe. I think that's why I really like it too. And that's why I think I was really disappointed that the name lists were so broken when they came out, because they feel like they came straight out of those books. But yeah, those are my pros. and I discuss my cons throughout most of the episode, so I won't repeat it.
Biran, you want to go next or you want me to go? Do you want the last word on this one?
You could have the last word before I
Okay,
forget what I was
All right, go ahead.
going to say. Pros. I love the rules. First edition, the rules, not the team that screwed it up, but the rules themselves are great. Well, first edition, aside from I agree with the issue with run interference, anything that interferes with the flow of the game. Second edition, we played kind of a simplified game without the coaches and cheerleaders, and we also had a rule of no douche walls while we're learning, because that's no fun when it's that hard to score the big points.
Douche wall, you mean by blocking the goals?
No, the 3 players blocking the 3/4 point goal.
Yeah.
Oh, but giving up the ones?
Yes.
1s and 2s.
I mean, people have done that against me in tournaments, and I was shooting 2s all day.
Yeah.
And they've actually changed it so you can, if you score a 2-point, a 2-point is a fan check, but a 3-point is not.
Yeah, if you score from the outside, the furthest hex on any.
Oh, because the idea of getting the extra points is fan check worthy.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. It's
a simple change, but it works.
Yeah, every time, like, all right, dude, I'm gonna get my shots.
My favorite team is Sphere, and the biggest thing about Sphere was they moved 6, and thankfully they did knock that down to 5 because that was just too much. Because when you think move 6, you're sprinting 12. That's a lot. But yeah, like if someone does not do a decent job blocking the 3/4 point hex, I feel like I could go there all day. But with 5, I couldn't, and we had a very close game in second edition. Like,
yeah.
That's about it. And again, I like.
You had Sphere, and what were you playing, Mike, in your games?
Neobots.
New ones, okay.
I like the team where if you don't have a card starting with, you could still draw a card. So that kind of balanced out the Sphere not having a card. It's huge not having a card in first edition because you could never maybe this is just how we play, but every first action, draw a card.
Oh yeah.
You're going to turn over on a draw the card. But is it still a rule that if your team comes with 2 cards, you could draw 2?
You can draw 2, yeah. Yeah.
So I like that you could at least always draw 1 card. So that was a lot of fun. The cons. I think the models all almost to every single last one look like chewed up bubblegum. They look like crap. They're made of crappy material. Yeah, you could paint them up and make them look decent, but you'll never, ever see a miniature painting competition with a Dreadball model. None of them look that.
Someone like Jeff Burbage will make them look good.
Yes,
Yeah.
but Jeff Burbage painting a GW model would look way better.
Right. Well, and all of us can make a GW model look decent.
Yeah.
But Dreadball, it's like
it's just
it doesn't
paint on a turd.
Lend itself to average painters.
And some of the later teams seem even worse.
Yeah.
Some of them look okay, like the Fat Monks look okay, but still, I just love. What would a Putrid Blight King look like? It would look way better than this.
And this is for everybody, are you surprised or not surprised that they didn't get better at models as the years went on?
In some ways, it's weird. Like, with this times they've started doing hard plastic for like Kings of War shit, it's worse than their Restic. Some of their Restic is better than their hard plastic.
Yeah.
And some stuff, I think the Brockers look great. I think that's the best looking models in my eye are the Brockers because they look great in Dead Zone too.
Yeah.
The gay stereotype dwarves, as I call them, construction workers.
Like village people.
Yeah.
But again, the Mantic stank of incompetence and the Ronzi scheme of kickstarting. What he's gonna have for breakfast. I don't know. Let's have a Kickstarter to find out.
What does it pay?
And it's not just
He has to buy all those hats.
And why is it? I'm not going to mention names, but other people have worked for the company also just incompetent.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Ronnie's kids?
Yeah.
Because they're going to take over the...
One of them we call Bonk Meat.
Oh, okay. Bonk.
And the plus is it's hex movement, which I'm always a big fan of.
Yeah.
We'll go to me, but what I'd like to do before we go through all mine, I think we didn't really talk a lot about the models. This is the first time. And I think the fact that we generally cover miniature games, I think we should talk about the models a little bit. and maybe just kind of give like best to worst. So like the initial human team, it's not that bad.
No, it's
Boring.
I don't mind it. The only guy I don't like is the guard on the right, who's kind of like awkward, but the base guard who's standing there in the middle.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good looking team.
You made a good point. What bases are those on in those pictures?
Yeah, I hate that.
Circle.
Yeah.
Right. Every single picture of their models are not on the goddamn next page.
Here's an in-game pick with.
Yes. Yes. It was that way in first edition.
Yeah.
Are you not supposed to? Are we?
They claim they don't photograph well on those bases.
Their models don't photograph well because they're shit.
I know. It's
Orcs, pretty good, right?
Pretty good is about as high a rating as you can give them.
Yeah.
I don't like the goblins, but I think the orcs look cool.
Oh yeah, the orcs are. Again, the base 4 are decent.
What's not coming through in those pictures though is the cleaning and the material that those models are made of.
Yeah.
The mold lines are obscene.
I found the later the team, the worse the mold lines, which is weird.
Yeah.
You would think it'd be the early ones. Like my Forge Fathers, I don't think this paint job really does them justice, but I think they're a pretty good looking team. There was very little clean I had to do on those because they're chunky, you know, but some of those, like the Void Sirens, those were
I
really
gave up. I highlighted it like it was piping on their uniform.
Well, and the Veermen I don't like at all. I think they're one of the worst looking teams. But the Void Sirens, there was so many mold lines that all those like ab like marks, you know, like I just had to cut through a lot of that because they cleaned very poorly. Those plates on their legs were really bad, you know. And
the best models I think are the ones with clear open spaces, so like the Brockers and the Convicts and stuff like that, where there's just like big, just flat areas, not flat, but you know, empty areas where there's not much on there.
These robots are some of the worst I've ever seen. I don't like them at all. The Zors.
I will say too that like the Veermen are my favorite team, but the material some of the strikers, like they've got one contact point and that's their ankle and it bends. And I can't.
Don't store them like this.
That's also your lunch for tomorrow too in there.
Yeah.
Zor looks like it'd be terrible to assemble. Were they?
They were not fun.
I think they look stupid.
Yeah, I don't like them. Teratons look cool. I never had them. They look cool.
They had, the problem with those is you couldn't tell them apart. You gotta base them. You gotta put colors on the face.
Are you saying they all look alike to you?
Yeah.
Well, doesn't everyone do the red, green, blue thing or the red, green, yellow?
No, some people don't want to put them on bases at all.
Yeah. They're like, the ones with their hands up are this. No.
The Rebs team was the worst because everyone was different and you couldn't.
Yeah. I hated the Rebs team.
I actually painted my Teratons different colors for for the Jacks and the Guards, and even I had problems telling them apart sometimes.
I don't like the Asterians.
No,
they're terrible.
They don't look good.
Yeah, too thin.
Rebs look awkward, but Rebs in Dead Zone look cool. But Rebs in here look awkward. I don't know why.
They're different. They're different creatures, so it's like.
Sphere look really cool. They're one of the best looking teams.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah.
They look like none of them are posed awkwardly.
You can tell position by what they have on too.
Yeah.
Sphere's cool. Hobgoblins are nothing special there. Rockers look good.
Yeah.
Convicts are one of the best, if not the best.
For sure.
But doesn't that guard look just kind of goofy to you?
The guard?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's supposed to. What do you mean?
I don't know. It just.
I like the guard. The guard is my favorite model on the team.
Do you remember the one I did? I gave him Guile hair from Street Fighter, and he was going to be that style just because I had one ball and one not. The Kalishi could have looked cool. They didn't really turn out great, though.
No,
they were also a mess of mold lines, I think.
They were, the strikers, because they had all skin exposed, but the mold lines were really bad on those. Are you supposed to paint these or no?
To be tournament legal, yes, but no. I put red dots and I put white highlights and called it done.
I never
battle ready.
Do washes over them.
No,
I've seen people do ink, like an ink in them, or
I did do that.
These I don't like at all. I mentioned before.
Stupid.
It's kind of bubblegum looking. These also look weird to me.
Yeah.
Those were Xtreme's one-turn loss team. Chorus, I think, are weird. They got the spinners on them.
Yeah.
Oh, but that was such a cool I don't know. I like those. What I don't like about those is the material they were made out of.
Yeah.
Like,
The bubble
if
gum.
that same mold or model was made by GW in plastic, I would love that team.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool concept.
They put portals and they teleported, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you get to the new robots, which are a little bland.
Yeah, they're okay.
I could swear there was something that someone said these were going to be hard plastic. Am I making that up, or was there a talk about that? But the new Kickstarter, the reason why we're waiting was because hard plastic teams. No? They were still rustic?
I don't remember either way, so.
These guys look pretty cool, Indige.
They're, again, mold line's crazy, though.
Okay, I never had that one. I don't know. I'm not too big on them. They kind of weird looking. The paint job is giving this team a lot of, like, these look awesome. The cyborgs,
Yeah.
I don't know why. They look good to me. I don't know if they would really turn out if the average person painted them. Of course, the mutants are what they are.
The mutants are. I have a painted mutant team, and I think it looks like shit.
They don't look as good as the mutants in Dead Zone, the initial mutants.
Yeah.
The rustic mutants in Dead Zone, the plague guys look good. These guys aren't. They're kind of along the same lines. They're all like torso and little legs, but they don't. Like even the guy in the picture, is his arms not connected?
Well, because they came with separate arms and separate legs and separate torso.
Yeah, basically it was separate kits thrown together.
Yeah,
The idea was fun, but when you start putting them together, they look like crap.
These guys look like GoBots to me.
They are awful.
Oh yeah, they are. They're
They
terrible.
look like GoBots.
Not Transformers, GoBots.
No, not.
I like to think of both those teams as the Mr. Potato Head of teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like that wouldn't fly in other games because who the hell would ever want to play a normal team once you have the option of a build a
How would
super
you
team?
play anything with robots or mutants? What are you doing?
So the star players, I mean, some of them, I'm not going to go through all, they're hit or miss. Some of them aren't so great. I do want to quickly bring up this star player, which I don't understand this one.
Oh yeah.
Like
That's the Make-A-Wish guy, right?
Yeah.
We decided it was the Make-A-Wish, so you can't
I don't know what they were going for there. I get that they're supposed to look like people. This one, though, is not. Is that a Dead Zone model?
Yes. The Pathfinder, yeah.
That seemed weird to me. He got.
It is. It's the lightly armored GCPS or whatever.
Is this John Jack, by the way? I thought it was. It looks like him, doesn't it?
the one that cosplays at the conventions?
Yeah. Anyway, so on to my pros and cons. Pro, it's a smooth, quick, fast-paced sports game. It's fun. It's one. It's on Hexes. Big fan as well, just like Biran is. It's 2. And 3, the world is fun. We wouldn't go to the trouble to make our own brands, Zlurpcore, with commercials and characters and do all this stuff if it wasn't a cool world. So those are the 3 big ones. But that's it. Like there are only 3. They are 3 big pros. Smooth rules, fast-paced rules, Hex, and they're all huge ones. But there's just those 3. The cons are it took 3 Kickstarters to get there, and now we're not interested. So, like, what went wrong would be my question. Where did you lose the fans? Because there wasn't a lot to begin with. It's not Games Workshop, so it takes a little extra to sell. And I know because I sold for them for a few months, you got to sell hard. The Kickstarters, 3 of them, does not make you a friend to store owners. And if you are not a friend to store owners, your game will suffer big time because you become a club game in basements. And then it's, well, I got my friend into it. I dragged him in. Last one was his pick. This one's mine. Like, it's not, you're not going to go anywhere without the support of a store. And Mantic does not work well with stores because of Kickstarter. Stores don't like that kind of shit. It's undercutting them.
Yeah, case in point, when Mike and I played Dreadball 2.0 in preparation for this, I felt so guilty I had to buy $260 worth of stuff.
You bought $260 of Dreadball stuff?
No.
Okay. What'd you buy?
We bought the Indomitus box and all the gubbins.
Okay. Gubbins. Bits and bobs.
You were going to do that anyways.
Yeah, bog standard,
So the Kickstarter thing is a huge negative because there really wasn't a need to do any after the first. The first one, you could have said, okay, it went bigger than expected. Thank you to everybody. Wow, that's unexpected. Let us do right by you and just kind of have these come out over time. The Xtreme Kickstarter came out.
There's something too to be said for keeping your momentum going through like hype. So if they would have stopped that first Kickstarter after season 2 even, and then had like one of the other teams released each month, you keep that thing going. That's what Games Workshop is excellent at. Like they continue with this monthly release of, oh, here's something new, here's something new.
It almost seems like I don't think it's intentionally they don't want to have a product release schedule. I just think that they don't have the means to just do it right. Like I don't think they're trying to say, here's either nothing or everything at once. I don't think that's intentional. I think they don't I don't know if it's a revenue issue, if it's a just business model or what, but they don't have like GW, Cool Mini or Not, Fantasy Flight. They all have like a plan, a several year plan.
But when you dump everything in someone's lap, or like, here's one of everything, like you're really pissing game stores off now because there's no follow-up purchase for me. Like I have everything. What are you going to carry in the store that I'm going to buy that I didn't get from the Kickstarter?
It's a several negatives because it's game stores hate you because, hey, that game you always talk about, I got it in stock. I already have everything. And I don't even like everything. Because what happens in games you're into? You buy the stuff you think are cool and you don't buy the other stuff. But when you get everything, is the cool stuff still cool? I don't know because I have everything now. It's not like the art of the tease is lost. There's no foreplay in our gaming relationship now because now I got everything.
It's like watching a movie on the internet and you hold off and you edge to make it last longer.
A porno, you mean, Biran?
Whatever you like. It doesn't have to be that.
To me, it's like reading the Wikipedia pages of all 6 episodes of a miniseries, but only watching the first one. It's like I watched the first one, but I read about all the rest of them. So I know everything, but I'm good. I don't need to ever watch 2 through 6 now because I've already experienced it. Half-ass, but I got it. And that's kind of what happened. I mean, you got to remember, I dismissed the first Kickstarter and got in organically, like, dare I say, the way one should. Then I did the next Kickstarter, which was Dreadball Xtreme. Great looking box, cool concept, but then it just kind of went on. So for me, I had, like I said, the big 3 pros, but the Kickstarter thing with all of it is a huge con to equal one of the huge pros. 2, model quality. You just, like I said earlier, you can't have a game go on for 7 years or whatever it's been and not have steps forward in that department. You can't.
You're like, is this a striker or is this a pen cap I've been chewing on for a day?
Yeah. ABC gum, if you will, already been chewed. You can't, you gotta show, even if I don't like the style, you have to show you're doing better.
Show the craftsmanship.
You really do. You have to almost, in a weird way, and I'm not going to say it's like an entitled Kickstarter thing, but it should be just something you're proud to do. You should show progress. You should show, I may not like everything GW comes out with, but I appreciate, like, that's a fucking badass model. And in 3 years, that's going to be a badass model. It's going to be better than that one. Dreadball doesn't have that. So that's rough when you're trying to compete, like Mike said, with the big boys. And I want to show this game to my Games Workshop fanboys. They're going to laugh me out of the fucking place before we even get started because of the models. You can't have no progress. That's my point. So the first edition ones look better than the latest ones. Yeah. That's a problem. So
also with the minis too is they're not good enough for a miniature game, but they're more complicated. They need more assembly than a board game would need.
Yeah.
So they're the worst of both worlds.
You're right.
You can't play it out of the box.
Yeah, if you crack open like Blood Rage or Imperial Assault, and the models are better, and there's no assembly.
Yeah.
These, I'm like, do I use plastic glue yet?
No.
Yeah, and painting on the clear bases is not cool. Like
No.
they
You gotta
scratch
slop
off.
that shit on. Slop that Chaos Black on thick and heavy.
Yeah, I did. I like and put the Jack Yellow, as I call it. That's 5 coats of Jack Yellow
Over
on
the
that
6 coats.
on top of the 5 coats of Chaos Black. It's actually a 3D front of the base now. It comes out now.
I used a full pot of Chaos Black per base.
So yeah, so that's for me the 2 big ones. Any other cons can directly relate to those 2 things, like lack of interest and no momentum, as you say, Xtreme. They all relate to the Kickstarter. Issues about playing with the big boys and being up here relate to the miniature. So for me, there's only 2 cons, but they're just like the pros. They're 3 big pros. Those are 2 gigantic cons. Dare I say the cons are bigger than the pros. But it's still a fun game. I'm not going to take away from, we had fun. Much like our Blood Bowl episode, I didn't go lower than 3 because there's history there and we had fun. We had a lot of fun playing tournaments and leagues with Dreadball. So I'm never going to discredit that. Those are still going to be on my pros list, and they always will. Even if I haven't had the enthusiasm to want to play 2nd edition. You know, most of these games, when we come up with our topic, and I say, cool, so I got 5 days to try to play this game. I grab the rule book, and I'm like, I'm going to go based on history and experience, and I'll be fine. This game, a good game shouldn't do that. It shouldn't make you say, for all reasons, I should want to play this game now more than ever because we're going to talk about it on the show. I didn't want to play it. So take that for what it's worth. I did not want to play it at this moment. All right. Anything else regarding models, rules, pros and cons we should cover before we do ratings?
One pro is I never had a bad experience playing with a normie.
Playing with a what? An army?
Normie.
A normie.
Oh, normie.
A non-friendly ass grognard person.
Yeah, I did.
I've had bad, but not I want to kill myself bad.
Okay, fair enough. Would you play?
Maybe it's because like you said, if the game goes bad, it's over quickly.
Could be. And there's, like I think one day we'll do a non-game episode about who you play and how all that. But there is something to be said.
I want to
for
blame.
You did. How'd you get that out?
What's that?
How'd you get that out of your ass?
Oh, it's I've been working on making myself incontinent so I can fill my diapers at night when I'm sleeping.
You warned me before I turned 40 about all those fun things that happen.
Yeah,
And Xtreme get to experience that real soon. So, Dreadball tournament for your birthday, Xtreme? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, just checking.
I mean, you can come over. We'll play Dreadball.
Okay.
Any of you 3 can show up at my house, and I will play Dreadball with you. But
Z's are a tier 1 and get all the skills?
and what? I don't know what any of that means. I'm playing out of the box.
I don't know. I just meant, the team you play. So I think we covered it. It's a great episode to do because we all went hard into Dreadball. We started at different times, but we all went all in. There's not a lot of games on our list of games we're going to cover that you can say the same for, which means one thing. We gave it not just a chance, we gave it the best chance possible to succeed on all fronts, from miniatures to game to leagues to campaigns to excitement to everything. We gave it like as many chances as possible. So I want that known, that if there's any negativity, like, oh, you guys are shitting on it, it's like, you don't understand. Like, we, compared to some of these other games like Riot Quest, we gave so much time, energy, money to this game. It's every chance.
I have 4 fully painted teams.
I have 3 fully painted teams and 1 half painted. I've never had that in any other game, to have that many.
That I've painted, not that I had someone else paint, that I've painted.
Yeah, same here.
I think too, when you hear all the negativity that we may have for the game, a lot of it is our disappointment. Yep. Because it is a good game that we really like, and we're disappointed it's not better.
It's a game is fair. Good after playing it once. Like, this game's good.
Xtreme. That's fair though. We're allowed to do that because we put forth the effort. If we were disappointed about some game that just started, or we played it three times and that was it, that's a little different. But I'd like to think that this episode, for anyone who's either thinking about Dreadball or is a fan already or whatever, like however you stumbled across it, like this is a rating and a review that's, I guess, more educated than many other ones we're going to do, is my point, because of the amount of time, energy, and money spent on all of this. We're more equipped to review Dreadball than a lot of people in the world, frankly.
Because there aren't a lot of people in the world that play it.
We had some of the biggest tournaments that ever existed. Some of the largest Dreadball tournaments that ever existed, we ran. Some of the largest leagues of Dreadball in the world, we ran. Fair statement, Mike?
Tournaments?
I mean,
definitely in the U.S., definitely Western Hemisphere. I don't know about UK, but
I think if having like 20 people in a tournament like we've done before, or close to it.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot some of those. Yeah, those were big.
I mean, I think Games Plus, we had a lot of people, or Dragstar, one of those ones.
Dragstar, yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to like toot horn, but it's just, we're allowed to be as critical as we are and disappointed as Xtreme said, because for a good reason. That's all I'm saying. So, all right, on to ratings. As far as least experience, Xtreme, you think you have least on this one?
I think so, because you guys had all your league experience that I didn't really have.
Okay, let's go. Mike's last because of the tournament running. I'll go after Xtreme because I haven't played second edition at all. So Xtreme, me, Biran, Valdric.
I thought we went most to least.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we went most to least.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay then. Then you know what, Xtreme? You just have to wait.
All right.
And
All
just as you're disappointed in Dreadball, you're disappointed in me for not remembering the format. Fair.
I would like to give this game a 4, but I'm going to give it a 3.5. And I really think they really had a good game, and second edition is really a good game. And if people are watching this and are, want a decent, quick, fun game, try to find it. But the fact that you're probably not going to find it, and you're probably not going to find an opponent, it kind of draws it back. It just like Xtreme said, they just had a good game and they just kind of shit on it. So, and there has been nothing that has come out for this game since that Kickstarter.
Really?
Nothing. What else has come out?
I thought like star players and stuff, or
Nope, nothing.
Wow.
And we didn't.
It doesn't carry it.
Attempt to have a tournament tracker.
Oh yeah, Pat. I remember Pat, who works for Mantic, friend of ours.
Yeah.
He had me like. I totally forgot about that. Holy shit! Yeah, I created like a team in a like a beta website. And
yeah. They tried that. Then there was another edition that was run out of Mantic headquarters in England. That again, the Adepticon tournament I ran was like the first real tournament. We had data input, and then it like tracked 3 tournaments, and I don't know if I've tried to find that website and I can't find it, so I don't know if it exists or not. So
if Adepticon happened this year, would you be running Dreadball?
No, because I was going to run it at Gen Con one year, and then it was basically, again, lack of coordination. 2 people were both, getting people to run Dreadball, and I thought I was running it, and then I saw someone else posting it, and I'm like, am I not running? I wrote him. I said, are you running it? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, okay. And
you got fired from a job you don't get paid for?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, that was because that was giving me my Friday at Gen Con, and then because I didn't do that, I was like, all right, that was the.
So much like somebody gets replaced over a budget at a job, you were making 0. Do you think someone paid Mantic to run it?
No.
The show,
but it kind of it was like getting dumped by text, or somebody else messages you and said your girlfriend just updated her status on Facebook.
Yeah,
and she didn't tell me. Okay.
Getting dumped by somebody you don't even like.
So yeah.
Okay, 3.5 for Valdric.
Yeah.
Over to Biran.
I'm also giving it a 3.5.
All right.
In a vacuum, without all the extraneous bullshit, if this was something you'd go to Grognard Games in Roselle, Illinois, and buy, you'd get a 4 or even a 4.5.
Whoa.
But the extraneous bullshit, I really liked the game, and I had fun with Mike when we played second edition. I see where they fixed a lot of stuff.
Why do you keep your models in a fucking Lunchable then?
Because the models are still shit.
Would you play Dreadball with other models if they were like suitable? Like if somebody came out with 3D printed good ones? Yeah.
Yes, like if there was a like there is for Blood Bowl, where there's this whole secondary market. Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone made some sphere that actually looked really, really cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. It might actually bump the score if that was available.
One thing when you play in Sphere, I never liked. I get that facing matters. I'm not going
The
to say it,
tail.
but I hate that like you always have to like go ass out on all your guys.
I'd win and then I'd make sure my ass was out.
It's kind of like I'm more into like the aesthetics of a game. Somebody watching, kind of like with Blood Bowl. Like I don't turn all the way. Like somebody walking by seeing that, it's like, what the fuck game are you playing?
It's how I walk when I'm at my gay bar.
Everyone's ass up. Like I would have said, you know what? Our league is 360. Don't do it. Just you're gonna get it.
I don't think it matters nearly as much in second edition.
Well,
yeah, because in second edition you get because it was always like you got -1 to hit from the rear, but they also get -1 to dodge from the rear. So
yeah.
well, Mike, if everybody was 360, it might just balance out. If everybody had 360, just a thought. You just got rid of that anyway.
Well, yeah, but I think that's kind of one of the things I like about it is you have to position your players right to be able to,
So like when you throw the ball, they got to be facing the right way.
You got to turn them right so they can catch the ball, but it also.
I guess my point is, I like it as a rule. I don't like the way it looks because everyone looks dumb.
Yeah, and then the models when they hang over, it's hard to get that faced right.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Some of those nameless were hangover guys.
Yeah.
So Biran, you're doing 3-5?
Yep.
Okay. Over to me. I truly thought this was going to be where Mike and I separate.
Uh-huh.
I'm giving it a 3.5 as well. And I 100% was confident that Mike was going to give it a 4. I was like, he has given it a 4 because he's won tournaments, blah, blah, blah. And I'm actually shocked. Not shocked at Biran, shocked that you, Mike, gave it because you're still involved to an extent with it. And I thought that, I just thought you still had more love.
I'll be honest with you. It was actually Xtreme's comment about the disappointment. And that actually kind of was like, yep, okay, 3.5. So yeah. I was actually going to be a 4 and then,
So for me, I was really thinking 3.5 because, I think about the history and everything we did. However, the fact that we said we were going to record this, I didn't want to play it beforehand. Like I didn't want to. I have all the tools of the trade. I have painted teams. I have a board. I was like, oh. So in a weird way, it kind of would drop because of that. With that said, because it's over a 3, like Mike, if you said, let's play, I actually would show up and play. I just didn't want to like do it myself. You know what I mean? If you said we're going to play, like you and Biran played recently at Grognard, like that would have been me. If I was there, I would have been, yeah, me too. I'm not seeking out games, but if you ask me, sure, I'll show up and play one. So for me, 3.5, there's no way I could go higher because of the cons that I mentioned. There's miniature quality is very poor, and the Kickstarter fucked everyone over on it. It's a shame because Jake Thornton is a good rules designer, and he made a very clean set of rules based on a very clear, defined mechanic of what do you want to do, how many successes do you need to do it, roll off, and then explosions. So there's some random element to it. There was a very like clean, kind of like Dead Zone, which we get into that when we do that one. It's like not even the timing issue, but it started off like, okay, like this is pretty standard as far as how to show people. It was not, when I first learned with Xtreme, maybe the guy that was there didn't do a good enough job, but I know when I showed people how to play, they got it right away. I showed Josh Aldous how to play. He picked it up immediately, whereas Blood Bowl might have taken a game or two. So it's an easy game to learn and fun game to play. So I can't take that away, but those cons are they're huge. So Xtreme.
Yeah, so Johnny, you've mentioned in the past, like any game that we could say, do you want to play and you'll play, it's like a 3 or higher at least.
For me, over 3. 3 is whatever. For me, 3.5 or higher is you say we're playing. That's only my thing. I don't want to steer you away.
I'm going to give it a 3. I think it's a good game. I have a lot of fun playing it, but there's just so much negative memories with the positives, and so much disappointment that this game isn't the game it has potential to be. And I just can't get past all that, so I'm going to have to stick with the 3.
If they stopped with everything after season 2, could it be a 4?
Easily.
Me too, no question. Because we would have had, we might have had tournaments still in leagues. You know, I don't know. This one, it's weird to have a game like start strong and then kind of just do that. It's weird. It doesn't happen with a lot of games for me.
And second edition is great. I love the second edition of the game, and playing it's still fun, but I think a lot of it is still just all those negative feelings that may have been fixed but are still there.
Dare I say feelings of dread?
Sure.
They warned you up front by the name.
Yeah.
You were warned.
Very clear.
You were warned. Dread will come with this game, and not Judge Dread either. The other kind of dread, not as good dread. All right, so total is a 3.5.
No.
3.75. I mean, no, 3.25.
Oh, it goes down.
It goes down.
Okay. So now we're
You
rounding
have
down.
to have Brian's vote count for something.
So just so I'm clear, why were we rounding up at the beginning?
Don't worry about it.
Whatever he says goes.
Yeah.
Shit. I've never been usurped as a main guy before. I don't know how to deal with it.
Norwegian math, you wouldn't understand.
Okay, that's fine. Which kind of math?
Norwegian.
Oh, yeah. I don't know that one. Well, this is the Dreadball episode of Zlurpcast TV. If you want a shirt like this, go to zlurpcast.net. And, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I saw, like, niceness. Robotech. Fuck that. Fuck that game.
It's a cross.
Go to zlurpcast.net. A lot of different items to buy. Clothing, masks, face masks, all kinds of stuff you can get. If you don't see the product you're looking for, click on more products. You'll see a bunch. There's at least 50 different on there, I think. Close to it, maybe. Subscribe because, ooh, very nice. And look, I mean.
Yeah, where'd you get that?
Look at that art print up there.
They're from the website.
Really? They have the art print there?
Yes, they do.
All right. I'll get that next time.
Yeah, it's a good one. Don't forget to Zlurp on that sub button.
Oh, no socks.
Oh,
gross.
We just got 10 more subs.
Yeah, that's it. I'll take it. Whatever works. Follow on social media at Zlurpcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Join the conversation in the Facebook group called Zlurpcast Discussion. And yeah, we will keep covering games. We talked about a lot of other Mantic games in this episode. We're probably going to do an episode, I'm guessing all the ones we talked about. So you know there's going to be coverage of Kings of War, Dead Zone, maybe Dungeon Saga, maybe, I don't know, maybe Walking Dead. I don't know. We'll see. But a lot of games to be covered. We had a lot to say. And don't forget we have non-game episodes too. You know, pretty soon we're going to do painting, modeling. We've done nerds who play games, famous nerds, I mean. We have what we're into, all kinds of stuff. Attending to con, weird deodorants.
Drew Carey's health status.
Drew Carey's health status, why he's so mad about other people's money, all that kind of stuff. We will continue to cover, and you hopefully will continue to watch. So for Valdric, Biran, Xtreme, Jonny P, see you next time.
Zlurpcast! Brought to you by Zombie. Eat flesh.